All right, we got hopefully attempt number 2 here. I think I got my mic issues solved. We'll wait till we get some people here in the chat just to make sure it's up and running. I'm moving here to a new place now. So it's everything's in new setup mode here at my new spot. So it's working the kinks out. Yep, little goof. Sorry about that, guys. I hope everyone is doing well, like you and me. I went back through here again. We just got another 2019 game, didn't we? A little bit of the heart attack Hawks. Wasn't a come from behind victory, but this is kind of what we came to expect last year throughout the year. It was sort of their modus operandi, and it certainly played out that way today. Even when we were up, I kind of was like, nah, this is going to get back to being close. So what's up, Azos? We need a D-line right now. We will get into that pretty within some depth here in a second, but I can't say I don't disagree. Dustin, how you doing? Randall, hey, homie, how you doing, man? Team 12's Seahawks, Joe, woohoo, it's a victory. That's 2-0. As a very smart man once said by the man Max Strong, perhaps the best fullback in Seahawks history, he said, any man that apologizes for a victory in this day and age needs to shut his mouth, or something to that extent. V-Splash, how you doing, man? How do you think of DK? DK is right on that trajectory of like what I thought. Now, certainly giving it to Stephen Gilmore throughout the game was a little bit above and beyond what I would have expected out of him at this point in year 2. But he is continuing that elevation that we had talked about through this offseason, where this is a man on a Hall of Fame trajectory. When you grab comparisons like Calvin Johnson or Julio Jones, you're not just pulling it out of your butt because you're looking at the guys size-wise and saying, here's the measurables, here's the arm length, here's how they jump, here's how fast they are. It's also in how they play and how they put that package together on the football field. And DK is absolutely putting that package to full bloom and very early. He's 22 years old, as the graphics showed here on the telecast. So he's ready to roll. He is ready to roll, and he gave it to Gilmore. That's the reigning defensive player of the year. That's not just a very good cornerback out there. That's a guy who's consistently asked to be put on an island against the opposition's best player, and he's got to hold up, and not only holds up, he's flourished in that role. So for DK to come in here, hand him his lunch basically throughout this game, kind of start to finish. I mean, he didn't go off for 150, but it seemed like he kind of got the better of that matchup. And the one moment in particular where they kind of got a little scuffle, it seemed like Gilmore was kind of finally at his wit's end, and the frustration had set in. At that point, you saw DK blocking him, and Gilmore was completely turned around from the play, not even knowing the running play was coming at him because he was so engaged with DK at that moment. Now that's just his blocking, but I thought it was an interesting little run of plays there. Team 12s, what time is it there for you? It's 6 o'clock here for me, and it's really hot here where I am. I'm waiting on getting some AC units, so you guys are going to get to watch me sweat into a little bit of a puddle today. So expect a lot of dabbing. Maxwell Stern says, and as you said, LJ was a bust. Well, and props to LJ in two respects. He did do his one game of pressure. It seems like we're going to get one a game. I saw one this game, so he did provide that. And then we got to give him props at the end of the game. They came down and they attacked his side of the field at the end. His job, and what I've said as far as LJ's upside, I've just tried to tamper people's expectations as far as him as a pass rusher. It's simply just to say, look, he's going to be a good, probably run-stuffing defensive end. He's going to be able to set an edge, and linemen are not going to be able to move him back. Just what you saw in that play. He's over on that edge. The lineman tries to get into him. He's completely immobile. He pushes back into the backfield. I know Leno kind of made the play, but he was right there with him to make sure. It takes two guys to get Cam Newton down, especially near the goal line. He was there for that, but it is still kind of what it is when it comes to LJ Collier, as far as I think the kind of player that we're getting. Cole Churka says, holy S, what a game, man. How have you been, man, for a minute it's been a minute since I've been in the stream. I'm doing great, Cole. As you can see by the background, I have just moved to Maui. So I'm just getting set up here. Unfortunately, my computer didn't make the trip. Dead away on arrival. Old Bertha went down. So I've now ordered a new computer, but I'm running on backups right now. Droopy, it was an amazing game, man. It's what they do. It's the Carroll Wilson special, man. You get into those games, and even when we get up by points, even with that stat, I think that's out there that says over the last, I think 8 or 9 years, there's something like 55-0 after leading after halftime. But even with those kind of stats, you still get just a little bit nervous, especially with this defense where it's at. And we'll get into the particulars of the defense, but you know something's going to happen. It's going to get pulled close. The telecast was touching on it as well. These teams do just tend to play each other close. Every single game seems to come right down to the wire, even though you're taking data over a 4-year stretch and it's all these different players. Nonetheless, it just seems to play out this way. Let's get up here. I'm not going to get too far back right out the beginning here. We'll get right up in these comments now. Derek, the Seahawks fan, let's go, man. How you doing? Randall McDaniel says Schneider needs to get on the phone and get some pass rush ASAP. Yeah, I know a lot of you don't love yourself necessarily some Clay Matthews, but right now Clay Matthews is looking pretty good to me. There's not a lot of options out there, and I don't know if we're going to be able to pull a trade off with somebody else. So it may be time to try to dip your toe in that water there, because we're generating no pass rush right now. I mean, Cam Newton sliced and diced you, and he is not a thrower of the football like that. That is not his game. You made it his game because he was so comfortable back there. I mean, by the end, he just knew there was going to be no pressure. He had no reason to worry. You weren't even really coming close for most of the game. So it's something that they're going to need to address. There's no doubt about it. Bleed Blue and Green, how you doing? Seahawks Joe, let's go, my guy. How you doing? Anthony Habib says Stephon Gilmore is DK's bitch. I can't disagree with you, man. He was throwing him around. There was the one play where he had it was a soft slant where DK came off the line of scrimmage, and right at contact, Gilmore dared try to stick his hand on DK, and DK slapped the hand away, and it just sort of caught, even seemed like Stephon a little bit off guard, because DK was able to cut right back inside and create a lot of separation pretty quickly there. He just seemed to have he had the upper hand on a man all day. I mean, he really did. They didn't over target DK. It was just a nice balance of it, because I don't want to go after Stephon Gilmore play after play after play. He's a very good cornerback in this league, but nonetheless, DK played fantastic. User Hitstick, how you doing, man? We stopped that running. Yeah, Cam Newton's, this was a tough team. This is not your typical, well, the Patriots lost a bunch of guys to COVID and Tom Brady's not there. No more Gronkowski. So now we can maybe relax a little bit and just, it's at home. Look, you saw in this game, and I've been one of the people that have knocked over the last few years the lack of our fans' effects on the game, as opposed to, let's say, 10 years ago when it seemed like game in and game out you were having this effect. It seemed like today you were really missing the fans. Any lack of noise whatsoever just on a play here or a play there might have effect on the game. You lost all of that. They were comfortable. They're playing with no sense of trying to protect Cam whatsoever. They're going to run him when they need to run him. They'll throw him up the middle all day long. I've said they're running him like his MVP season, where it's just no regard for tomorrow. We're going to play for today. TLJ Kevin, how you doing? What's up? Billy Scott. How you doing, Billy? Akin ala Joheo Behe. I gave it a try, Akin. You got to give me that. How you doing? Derek, the Seahawks fan, says Blair definitely blew out his knee. He was ruled out immediately. That's the sad dark cloud over this game is Marquis Blair on a play where he made a great play on the ball carrier, comes over, and KJ Wright, I don't know what KJ was doing. Originally, I thought he had just fallen into him, but KJ was trying to go into for some kill shot while the guy was going to the ground, and he just went right into Blair's knee. I would be hard-pressed to believe that Blair is not out for the season at this point. I mean, that's a textbook ACL tear, and it's so sad because I really felt like the kid was going to come on this year. This is one of those things I think we have to look at, though, to a certain degree, where we're seeing this in San Francisco right now. We're seeing this with teams like the Eagles. The injury situation is going to come up this year. We all just got to hold on tight. It's gonna get lean at times. These guys had no training camp. The rookies had none of that. That their bodies aren't going to be ready. And you see even on a play like Dwayne Brown having Mike Iupati come rolling into him. Iupati can't keep his feet on the play. Keeping your feet and like that stuff comes along during the course of training camp. It's some of the things that you're able to do better on. But when you don't really have your feet under you, you're not really ready to go game ready like these guys kind of aren't. Those kind of things, freakish things will happen more often. Barry Sortoro, thank you for the $20 donation. Barry, man, you always are coming in with the $20 donate, man. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. Snacks Harrison, he says, snacks. And he is, of course, referring to Snacks Harrison, the very talented one tech who's played a couple different places throughout his career. Doesn't necessarily give you a lot of pass rush, but I got to be honest with you, for everybody knocking Snacks Harrison's pass rush, I have to wonder if he wouldn't at least give you something more than what you're getting right now from the interior of the defensive line. So you've got to get Snacks in here, and you need to get another pass rusher in here. I've been saying it for about the last 2 months. We need another pass rusher, and we need another one tech in here. It's just a little bit too lean. They did okay stopping the run outside of Cam Newton in this game. I'll give him some credit for that on that. But thank you for the $20 donation, Barry. I really do appreciate it, man. Clara, how you doing, Clara? Yes, what a game. Hawks win. Next game is Dallas Cowboys. Quentin Dunbar, what happened to the 49ers today? Hello, clean shaven now. Yeah, Clara, I've got to start my job here, or I'm already starting my job here. So got to view the public, be the clean face. Yeah, Cowboys game is going to be very interesting next week. Dak Prescott might throw for 500 yards at this point if we don't get some more reserves brought up. It could get a little bit odd, and we might have a 52-48 contest. But Quinn Dunbar, to your point on that, played all right today. He really struggled out the gate once again. I was just about ready to start driving in the nails of his coffin as being a Seahawk, going, what is this guy doing here? But then I've got to admit, he jumped one little route early on in the first half. He was able to almost get an interception then. Then he did jump around and got an interception, doing just what you want from a textbook standpoint in this defense for a corner to come up and get a pick. You first ask him to play off coverage in zone, read the quarterback's eyes, read the route and the combinations, understanding from your film study what's going on, and then pull the trigger. And it's that last part that corners really struggle. They can put all those other elements together, but then they can't hit that trigger and go forward with it. And he did that to get that pick. So props to him. Maybe he is coming along in this scheme and he's starting to get a little bit more comfortable in it. He seemed to play a little bit better as the game went along. And if I've got to say, at least on the upside, I'm happy with how feisty he is as a tackler. I thought he'd be a little bit soft in that respect, but he's actually proven to be, generally an okay tackler coming in over there on the edge, a willing tackler at the very least. Akin, everybody eats when Russell cooks, baby. Hashtag everybody eats, B. That's right. The Russell Cook crowd's looking pretty nice. And by the way, you guys are going to hear a little bit of cars in the background. Bear with me, please, on it. They come and they go. I'm out here in kind of a remote area, but we've got a lot of guys on their bikes. They're little bikey bikes. But this was a game where Russell got to cook again a little bit. I got to be honest with you. They went a little conservative at times. I expected a bit of balance in this game off of what we were coming from last week, where the Falcons secondary is just miserable. The Patriots secondary is one of the best in the league. It's understandable you're going to dial back the passes and maybe go a little bit more to the run. But it did seem like, especially late, they got a little tight with the play calling at times and a little bit off. I thought, as they said in the telecast, Brian Schneider called a great game right up until kind of that last series where it just sort of they got a little uncertain, it felt like, on what they wanted to do. They called a timeout at one point. They just kind of looked a little bit off there. But he got to cook. I mean, they let him let it rip, man. And Russell right now is playing, if I can be saying this, he's playing even better than he was last year at the start of the year when he was on the MVP track season. I mean, those throws he's making to David Moore, coming back to Tyler Lockett as he's moving right, throwing back across his body to the middle of the field, which is one of those cardinal rules that you do not break as a quarterback, yet he can break it because he's just that good. Even the David Moore ball, it was like a point guard throwing a pass down into the post, and he's got to sort of throw it over the top of a smaller defender to a bigger defender, and he just laid it in there so softly to give David Moore the opportunity to get his feet in there. And then, I mean, goodness, the Carson one, he's falling back as all those throws. Let's add the exclamation point on this. It seemed like almost every one of those throws, he's got pressure in his face or he's just about to get racked. And he throws the Carson ball falling back, defender in his face, throws one of those moonshots Collinsworth was talking about. And it's before Carson's even kind of got past the defender that he's going to beat, much less Carson even looking for the ball. And then he puts it right on the money. Russell's in that zone right now. He's got that fire going, and he said in the interview the last week where he said, "Of course, I'm the best quarterback in the league." He's getting to a point here. This is a different Russ, and it's a Russ that I like, especially if they will let him continue to cook, and they're going to need to do that next week against the Cowboys. Randall McDaniel, thank you, my brother, for the $9.99. I saw you messaging me on Facebook, dude, and I didn't get a chance to respond to you, but appreciate the donation, brother. Thank you so much. We got a victory donation on that one, man. Siphon God, why does almost every time these teams play, it always ends up on the one in a really close game? Well, Siphon, I can only say that you must have the same frustration I do, where I'm getting older now. My heart in another 10 years, I don't know if it's going to be able to take this. But it just seemed sort of predisposed that this is where it's going to go every time we come and we play. There's no way around it. And you just got to thank God we don't have to play them every year, or that they're in our division, and we get to just once every 4 years get it in and out of our system and call it a day. Because I'm good with not playing the Patriots, especially when they got a Cam Newton and they're just letting him run wild and they have no cares for tomorrow. I mean, the Patriots are playing with no worries this year. They're under no pressure. Nobody expects them to do anything. They can just go out there and just let it rip. do what they want to do, try out new weird things, throw a bunch of new film out there, do all that kind of stuff, what they did today, which would be varied. It's very tough to play a team like that that's got nothing to lose. Come on, Kitty. No. Internet, dude, I legit predicted this game. Did you call that one? I probably missed your score from last week, but I do vaguely remember you posting a prediction on there. So no, Kitty. Nope. Raw Vegas Todd, hell of a game. Butt pucker. Oh, I was grabbing my butt cheeks, heavy breaths, leaning over, a few curse words come out. Why did it have to be this close? We had this. What's going on? Please don't let them. And then you get Cam at the 1 yard line, and you're just like, no. We gotta stop Cam Newton at the 1 yard line for game. And I think we got even a timeout because there was another timeout. So there's a lot of time to just have consternation and turn it over in your gut and go, no, not like this. Not like this. Watching him win it with his stupid pose. And he was already earlier looking at the video, trying to get on the video. You know, it's like a little puppy there. Am I on video? I'm on video? I'm on video? James Glenn says, Bengals are 0-2. They aren't going anywhere. They should trade us Carlos Dunlap. It's a great suggestion, James, and probably one that's got to be in the target crosshairs of John Schneider. I went through and looked pretty hard through the teams out there that would be teams that would be falling away quickly. Like you mentioned, the Bengals 0-2, not going to be the playoffs. It only makes sense they'd want to collect assets for Burrow in that future. And there's not a lot of options. It's very, very, very lean of the presumptive teams out there that you go out and get a guy. The guys that have been available have been traded or signed or kind of off the board. So Schneider's going to have to get very creative to find somebody that would be even decent. But at this point, James, I can't argue with Dunlap. I've not been a big backer of him because I think he doesn't have a lot of gas left in the tank. But at the end of the day, it can't be worse than what we're seeing right now as a pass rush. So and I can't expect it would cost that past that range I was talking to you guys about, where it can't be more than a 4th round pick. We don't have a 3rd round pick in this draft. We don't have a 1st round pick. You know darn well Schneider's not moving that 2nd round pick at this point with already losing those first 2. So it's got to be a 4th rounder and on. And that's got to be the price. That's got to be the player type in that same kind of compensation level. Anthony Habib, it's 11:50 for me. Oh, it's getting late for you guys over there. I know I got a couple hours here. That's the nice part about being in Maui. It's always early here. Azo says, what was the play call on the 3rd and 1 going deep to Lockett? I'm not really sure about that call. I don't love it. They were, of course, going on the back of what they did last week, where the DK Metcalf bomb that he got against the Falcons was, I believe, on a 4th and 5 play. And they've shown a propensity to do this in the past. You guys might remember a couple years ago, they had a 4th down play. They went to David Moore deep similarly. The thinking goes here is that the team's going to be defensively locked in short zones. They're going to take everything away at the sticks. And so therefore, if you're going to throw a play anyway past the 10-yard point, if it's going to be single coverage with a guy you think you can beat another guy deep, take your shot at that point. I can get the logic and reason behind it. I can't hate on it necessarily because it has worked. But you can't help but think that maybe there's a better play there on 3rd and 1. You know, one of those plays that you go into your playbook for, one of those like 2-point conversion plays, you know, where you need a yard or two and you know it will work for sure. Grab one of those in that moment. And that I would have preferred something like that, especially understanding where the defense was at. You needed to get that 1st down. You did not want to trust the defense at that point at the end of the game. Internet. I said Seahawks would allow an early turnover leading to touchdown and our horrible defense would stop them in the last second. Well, I give you props, Internet. That was a great call, man. It did suck on that early interception. You know, Greg Olson's been a little bit of a mixed bag early on. I think he's blocking pretty well in the run game. He's made a couple of catches. He still looks like he's got some juice in those legs. He's not slowed down like you kind of see with Gronkowski, who looks like he's really lost a step or two. But, man, that drop was brutal. Had an offsides penalty in this game. I believe last week he had a kind of a miscue as well, a drop last week. We need Greg to get along. We needed that tight end position to be utilized. So hopefully he can turn it around. Tobias, how's it going? And Jose Rodriguez, I missed you, man, but how you doing too? My two mods, D-Mac's in the house. What is up, D-Mac? I gotta stop doing that. What thing here? What a game. Will Butler says, what a game. We're staying up until 5 a.m. here in London. Work is going to be fun. Oh, it's going to be brutal, but I'll tell you, there's nothing better when you're a little tired, just knowing your team wins and you get all 5 days to revel. We're 2-0. We're undefeated. Who cares if our defense is a sieve? That doesn't matter. That's a problem for tomorrow. We got a general manager for that. Today, we get to just exude our love for the Seahawks and Victory Monday, which is forthcoming, as you Brits would say. Mr. Rabs, Freddie Swain, man, Freddie Swain on the crossing route. Now it was a great, really, that's a Schneider nod there. Whereas they were speaking about in the telecast, he was able to hide in and duck behind the other 2 wide receivers in there. And because of the nature of the defense that the New England Patriots were kind of playing, where they were looking to get into their zone drops based off of the receivers sort of, it seemed like this. I'm making a guess. I don't know this for sure, but it seemed like off of the snap, then they were going to read to their zones and hold. And when they did that then left that zone up on the left side open, which once Swain then kind of went into his route, it's sort of like it throws the defense off. It's like it's like when you're dribbling at a guy in the basket and all of a sudden you just kind of stutter your pace just a little bit and he's expecting you to go head down as hard as you can. Just throws them off on their little timing. And it was a great throw by Russell, but also a great route by Freddie Swain. He took it and did what he was supposed to do, but kind of a broken coverage play too, more than anything else. Keith Goodspeed, Seattle almost pulled off a 2015 Green Bay. Or you mean 2000? Yeah, that's right. It was 2015. Yeah, that would have been a brutal loss for this year. This is a win you kind of needed to get. We're already looking at our NFC West. And if you've got I'm not going to call this a freebie victory. It's just a win you should have. You're at home against the Patriots. They're coming across country. They're down guys for COVID. They have a lot of talent still on that team. But you got to get this win if you're going to want that division, if you're going to want any hope at that home field advantage throughout the playoffs. And there's only one number 1 seed this year in either conference. So that means that there's not a lot of room for error. And I've maintained for a while, as I did last year, us getting the home field advantage is such, maybe not as much this year because there aren't maybe going to be fans, but traditionally it's been so huge to have that, at least for just the bye, the extra bye you get. But yeah, Keith, that could get real dark real quick, Keith. This could have been a real dark live stream. Nathaniel Parks, why do all Seahawks come down to the final play and cause a heart attack? I've asked myself it for years, but then I've learned to love the bomb. I've learned to love it. It used to worry me, but now, it's like the whole movie, how I learned to love the bomb. I don't know. I would used to tell you it would always have to come down to this because we weren't willing to put up points on the board. We're trying to shorten games. You're trying to limit possessions. And therefore it's just chances are you're going to have a game that's close at the end and it's going to be a nail biter down. But this was one where you were throwing it. This is one where you're putting points up on the board. You had them up by, I think, over 10, 11 points at one point there early in, at least in the fourth quarter. But yet they still come down and do it again, don't they? And shades, I think, too, of the kind of almost shades a little bit of the Super Bowl, if you guys think about it, because we had them up by 10 in the Super Bowl in the fourth quarter as well. So, man, that you would have been sitting there all week just thinking about that stuff. Randall McDaniel says, LJ not the problem. I've been happy with his play so far. I'm not hating on his play, Randall, right now, because I think, look, he's, like I said, I think he can do some stuff for you in the run stuff game. He gave you the one pressure. Look, he is going to be part of the problem. You're not generating pressure, and he's one of those guys in that line. Is he the main problem? Is he the number 1 guy out there? No. But is he a guy that is one of the people not getting very much pressure? I mean, Cam had a lot of dropbacks in this game. Your pressure rate's not good down across the board. At this point, I'm like, let's get Shaquem off the practice squad. I can't, is he going to be worse? Really? D-Mac, they're saying, what's up to you, bro? Oh, my goodness. VHawk 78 says this game was an emotional roller coaster for me. It was for me too, VHawk. I never felt comfortable in this game, even when we were up by points. I felt I was on cloud 9 because you're watching Russell throwing these throws and you're going, yeah, show me Patrick Mahomes putting 3 of those kind of throws every game. Taking a hit in the chops, laying it up, right on point. Doesn't matter if it's 40, 50, 60 yards down the field. It's going to be right where it's supposed to be. Right in the breadbasket of the receiver's hands. Anthony Bain says the pass rush is garbage. Never thought it could get worse, but it has. The Cowboys going to beat us, and Dak will have all day to pass. Bet money. I wouldn't bet money on that with you, Anthony, because I can't say that I necessarily disagree. At this point, Cam Newton just sliced and diced you folks. And Cam Newton, as I've talked about with his MVP season, it was a lot of, I'm going to be back here in read option. We may run read option with the running back based off of what I see pre-snap. If we don't, I'm going to go to one read and throw it. If the read ain't there, I'm going to probably run it. That's pretty much Cam Newton as a passer. And as the years went on and they tried to now expand him into a passer, that's when the failure began really in Carolina at the end. Now it coincided with some of his physical diminishings, but at the end of the day, he just is not a thrower. You made him look like Peyton Manning in his prime back there in that second half. I mean, just under no duress whatsoever. And they've got to get it fixed. We've got to do something else other than that. Iridescence, what's up, Hawks Nest? What a game. That was super close. Thoughts on our defense? Offense was amazing. Offense was amazing. The defense is going to be a problem. I'm going to repeat it a couple times on this live stream, but it's got to be bared worth mentioning, which is you need another 1 tech or even a 3 tech at this point. I'll take either or. We've got to get another defensive tackle in there that can do something from the inside, and then you need to get another pass rusher in here at this point. Irvin, I thought initially it looked like maybe he had an Achilles tear there, but it looked like he got up and walked around. Maybe it's just a twisted ankle, and he can come back in, but he's not been terribly efficient or effective as a pass rusher so far. And Benson Mao, our other big main free agent signing, has been similar. They're just not giving you very much. D-Max in the house. Anthony Babib, that was the definition of bend but don't break. That was the bend, twist, bend, turn. You're hearing snapping sounds. The rope is beginning to cut. There's a little like the rope is gone from a full thick rope to like a little thread now holding it. You're watching it just twist and hold right at the end, and it's just about to snap, and you got through the game and won it. That was definitely that. Totally not Jake, says Seattle or Dallas. I'm going to say Seattle at this point in a shootout, but that's just as much because I think that Dallas is not going to be able to stop us in the air, and I think that we'll do enough. We'll cause a turnover or two here somewhere, somehow. The thing with Dallas that is going to be a struggle for them is they've got some injury problems as well. They don't have their main tight end. Their right tackle is on the IR. I believe they have a couple of injuries out there, totally not Jake. So I'm going to lean towards Seattle, but I don't say it with a ton of confidence at this moment. It may be just a complete homer pick at this point, but I will stay solidly with them. Tobias Larson says, if Bruce Irvin is hurt for a couple of weeks, who's going to be playing the Sam position? Brooks, it would be surprising if they did that to me because they didn't have him playing at the Sam position through all of training camp. They had him as the backup Will. There may be a situation we're looking at here where they move KJ Wright over to the Sam because they did have KJ in training camp playing some of the Sam. So they may flip 2 positions at that point to get Brooks in space so you can really take advantage of his speed at that point rather than putting him on the line and asking him to set the edge. I would think that would be theoretically my guess on how they would move that. But when you go to the 2018 tape on Brooks, they were playing a 3-4 scheme there where he was essentially playing what would be our de facto position as the 4-3 under linebacker in our team. So he did do it on tape in 2018. Siphon of God, Adams and Wagner are our best pass rushers. Yeah, no, that's no joke, man. And it may be by a good stretch. Cole Churka says Earl Thomas, ? Well, considering that maybe the only way I'm speaking to trying to, upgrade this team as far as the defensive tackle or defensive end, Cole, but, really at the end of the day, maybe the only way to upgrade this team is to go grab the guy that's got the talent out there, fits in your scheme. Earl Wood. At this point, it looks like Marquis is out. I would be very open to the possibility of it as long as he's not trying to cost the mother load. But you've got to think that they've got to be looking at all options at this point. And having Earl here, at least for some depth at this point, knowing probably Marquis isn't going to come back is not the worst move to make. Daniel W., how could we even get a pass rush? Well, that's it. That's where you need talent, Daniel. It's why I banged the drum at the end of last year. And you guys hate me saying this, I'm sure, at this point, because I've said it so much, but it's why I pointed to this last offseason after the Green Bay Packer loss in the playoffs. The number one priority this offseason needs to be upgrading the pass rush, and not in just a kind of like, we'll do it like 2012 and bring in our Cliff Aver and Michael Bennett type thing. It needs nearly full reconstructive surgery here. Okay. The nose is over here, the eyebrows up on your ear. This is going to take a couple of things here. You're not going to just be able to do it with one whiskey sighting here and there, which is what they kind of tried to do. They went a little bargain base. And so that's how you arrive here now, where your pass rush isn't good enough. You hoped young players would develop. A couple injuries, and you're really unproven, and you don't have a lot in the cabinet to pull from. TJ Wilborn says, what's up with the goal line, Super Bowl 49 goal line, 2016 Cam versus Gronk goal line, and this goal line? TJ, it's sometimes there's weird things in the stars, I guess, my man. Sometimes the stars align a certain way when you're playing a certain team or something. I can't speak to it. It's a little eerie at this point. Randall McDaniel says Ryan Kerrigan. It's a possibility, Randall. The one thing I had counted on with getting Ryan Kerrigan from the Washington Redskins, who's a very talented pass rusher, but of course the Redskins are pretty stacked at pass rusher, and maybe open to bringing a guy in. I think the only way you could bring something like that in is if you could probably flip Rashad Penny into it, where Redskins need some running back help. They lost the kid out of LSU because of the domestic violence situation. They also cut, I think, Adrian Peterson away from the team. So maybe they could look at needing a running back. If you could kind of flip something like that, maybe they'd be open to that. But that's the only way they're doing it. They're probably not going to just take it for draft picks, because they're dancing in that division as far as they seem like they'll be a contender, considering the Cowboys are not as strong as maybe we thought they were going to be. Anthony Abib says we really need to activate Alton Robinson. I agree. It's interesting that he's not been activated, and instead they've gone lighter. And it seems like really just giving a ton of snaps into Bruce Irvin and a ton of snaps over to Benson Mayowa rather than having a rotation in there. They've stuck with that instead. But it's odd with how much hype we were kind of hearing out of camp, and they're not even seemingly trying yet. Maybe they're just trying to wait and lessen his load. But again, the pass rush is a worry here, folks. We know right now with some of the talk, Pete Carroll, this last week in regards to our second round pick, who also cost a third round pick, Darrell Taylor, having that rod taken out of his leg this offseason, and it's taking a little bit extra time for him to come back. I'm not going to be shocked if I wake up tomorrow morning and they've got him on IR, or a week from now they put him on IR for the year. So they're going to need to, I'm going to keep saying it, they need to address it. Absolutely. Nathaniel Park says Cam kept throwing over the middle for 10 yards the whole game. Yeah, they didn't have any answer. You dropped into soft zone. They showed an all 22 shot at one point in the game where you've got your safeties in sort of a cover 2 look. They don't really drop into cover 2. They just kind of stand there protecting it against the deep ball. The soft look when we're up by a lot of points thing is they could work on that a little bit. They could work on that defense. That defense needs a little bit of tweaking. Brick Mox Daily. What's up, Brick? That catch by David Moore is incredible. What were you thinking about seeing his catch? I had no idea he made it in. I said, no way. I said, no way he's in on that. No way he got that one in. There's just the angle of where his leg was coming down as he's twisting his body, and he's got to turn his hips too, for not to just slice right past the out of bounds line as he's bringing his foot past. But as they noted, it did look like in that instance, that pylon was the key factor in there, because it just allowed him to redirect his leg and his foot. And like they said, probably let him know, just like an outfielder in baseball, when they go back to the track and they can feel the wall, it helps them in making the catch and kind of knowing where their placement is. And it did seem to do that. Props to David Moore for being able to put a foot down like that and get that foot back in bounds to lay it down. I'm really happy they held on to that guy. I know there were some guys here on live stream and girls potentially saying we got to move on from him. We know what he is. He is what he is. He had that 1-7 game burst, and that's been it. And I did agree with a lot of that, but I'm glad they've held on, because he's a guy who's got a lot of rapport there with Russell. They've been together for a few years, and he's got some juice. He's a talented kid. This guy put up like 26 reps at 220, ran a 3.6 at his pro day. He comes from a small college, but make no mistake about it, he's an explosive guy. If he can just come along with those skills, which has been kind of developing. But he was good too on a little out route by Russell. He's been solid so far this year, David Moore. Props to him. Mahalo, Jose. How you doing, man? Nathaniel Parks, Koi Matai, all the Stephon, that touchdown Seahawks, DK Metcalf. Koi, you're right, man. All that talk about Stephon, and he's going to shut down DK this week. I saw a couple of things saying that. Oh, DK can get off this week. It's different from that Isaiah kid from the Falcons that he torched up a bit. No, he took it to him, and on a variety of routes, hit him on the deep ball, hit him on a comebacker, hit him on a slant using his physicality. If there's people out there still questioning whether or not this guy's going to be the next superstar wide receiver in the league, you've not watched enough of his tape. Go back and watch his tape, because he's going to be that. Antonio Vasquez, just what you're saying. DK Metcalf is emerging. He's going to be the next Julio Jones type of player. 100%, Antonio. Been saying it for a while, and I'm going to hold to it. The talent is these kind of guys don't come along. It goes from Calvin Johnson to Julio Jones to DK Metcalf. There's a lot of other great receivers in there. So you get your Antonio Browns in there. You get your DeAndre Hopkins in there. You get your other receivers in there that are nice receivers, and they'll put up their 1,400 yard seasons. But there's something just completely different about the 6'4", 235-pound monster with ball skills and can jump through the roof and is faster than everybody else on the football field. That's just a complete game changer on the offensive side of the ball. And Stephon, by the end of the game, he had enough, I think. I think he had enough. Your boy Michael. How about Michael Dixon? Ooh, what about that 65-yard punt there, your boy? That's the kind of that's rookie year Michael Dixon right there. And it was at a time you needed to flip the field. You needed to get the field position changed. You needed him just unleash one. And not only did he unleash it, he put it right at the back right end where the coverage could come down, and it cut the field in half, which is what you want to do with those returners. Ideally, you're telling your guys to go down the right or the left, and then you have your punter cut that half of the field off so that it just shrinks down how far around that punt returner can move. So great job on his part. Emmanuel, my one patron. Emmanuel, thank you so much for the donation. I do so much appreciate it. Does DK bullying Gilmore tonight make DK an all-pro? It puts him on the road, Emmanuel. The tough part's going to be for DK is that there's so much competition out there in this NFC especially. He's got his Mike Evans. He's going to have DeAndre Hopkins, who it seems like is going to get 20 targets a game there in Arizona. So it's going to be an uphill battle just from that standpoint alone. But if he can just stay consistent week in and week out and be that 500 and then occasionally get you the 6'130", 6'150", yeah, he can. Because when he's handing to Gilmore, a guy who's just, again, this ain't an all-pro cornerback, folks. This is a defensive player of the year last year, Stephon Gilmore. So this is a legitimate performance on the national stage. And again, any haters that may remain are going to have to be completely quiet. Randall McDaniel says, I effing hated our last possession, run, deep pass. Maybe the snap made rush the pass. I'd rather pass on first or second. Bad spot to get conservative. Yeah, it was just one of those points. It just wasn't a bad sequence of called plays. And a play caller is going to have that over the course of the game. I felt like Schottenheimer. We've got so many Eimers here. Schottenheimer really called a great game throughout this game. So I can't necessarily knock him on one series being a bad series. I thought he did a really good job, especially considering there were some times where our offense sort of shot themselves in the foot a little bit with the penalty situation, the false starts, the holding penalties. There's a couple points there where they made it a little bit harder on themselves than they had to, but he was able to really kind of still keep his play calling, I thought, pretty legit throughout the game and put him in a position to succeed. So, but I agree with you, Randall. That was a frustrating sequence. Your boy Michael says, I think we should sign Earl. Why not put Diggs at nickel? Because sadly Blair is out for the year. I was thinking the same thing, your boy Michael, earlier when I was thinking about how we're going to solve this now. You don't necessarily have a great nickel option there. I felt like Ugo played good at first and struggled a little bit as the game went on. I still like Ugo, but he hasn't shown necessarily enough consistency at this point to trust him in that real vital key role of the slot cornerback. I know that Diggs did a little bit of that with Detroit, and you could slot Earl right back in at free safety, and he knows the scheme, knows what he's doing. It's not the worst solution to the issue because I really don't want to stick Jamal Adams into that slot. That's what they did a little bit throughout the game, and I'd rather keep him out of that slot, let him out there do his freelance thing a little bit more, I got to go to bed, Derek says. Derek, you have a good one. Thank you for watching, man. Daniel W., I wouldn't be mad if we sign Earl. He had issues with Pete, but that's like a father and son getting in a fight and the son going off and eventually coming back home. I agree, man. I would have been hesitant to say Earl ever came back, but the cold market out there, the fact that at the end of the day, look, he's family, he's on this team. This is where he potentially had his Hall of Fame career. It makes a lot of sense at this point, not to mention the fact Seattle's got the salary cap space to maybe even be the team that is offering the best deal out there. Coy says, KJ effing blew it, pissed me off. I was very mad at KJ for about a quarter and a half for what he did to Marquis Blair. When you guys watch the replay on it, it's going to make even less sense to you what he was doing exactly. The man's down on the field. Why are you going down the kill shot? It's going to be 2nd and 9. Blair just made a great play. You're arriving late because you're old and slow. Just don't do that, KJ. But yeah, he did it. Corey Andrus says no excuse for that horrible pass rush, and I would provide you none for it, Corey. I would not mask it up or anything else. I wanted us this offseason to go at it and attack it, to not just deal with it as this thing that we've got to put a Band-Aid on. I felt like we needed to stitch it up and get some Neosporin in there and then wrap it through and then change the wrap once every couple of days. And instead, they let it fester, and now we've got a little bit of gangrene, and we're going to have to make some decisions about some toes pretty soon. Nathaniel Parks, Wilson threw 5 touchdowns and almost lost with Jamal. Need quarterback pressures. Yep. The base point on this, you folks, and most of you know this by now, you play a 4-3 under defense that is heavily zone based, one of the highest propensities of playing zone in the entire league. Therefore, to make sure you squeeze those zones down, to make sure that players can't run through one zone, have another player flood through another zone, those long developing plays, you need the pass rush to speed it up. It's why I go to the pass rush first and foremost. And it's why they're getting ripped apart, is because those long developing plays can continue to develop because you're not shortening the play. You're not speeding up the quarterback's mind. And the second a quarterback gets comfortable back there, that's when they're really tough. NFL quarterbacks, you give them all the time in the day. I don't care if it's Cam Newton, who's not accurate and wild at the stick with his throws. He can still pick you apart. NFL quarterbacks can do that. Mr. Krabs said, Mr. Krabs. Sorry, I keep getting that wrong. Freddie Swain untouched for a touchdown. Just a great route. Fantastic play calling, and Swain did his part. Kid's got the speed. He's 4'4". He's a legitimate 4'4" guy. Tobias says 20 minutes until I have to go to work here in Denmark, 6 a.m. It's going to be a rough day, but it's worth it. I know you folks over there in England, you Tobias over there in Denmark, you guys, bless you for staying up. That's a true fan over there. So I know it's going to be a brutal work day, but at least you get a smile, Tobias, and know it's a win. So it makes it just a little better, just a little bit better. Evan Jordan, we should have kept Clowney, but there will be others. I hope there are others, Evan. I do. I agree. We at least with Clowney, you would have been getting some kind of pass rush, in my opinion. A lot better than what we're getting right now. They chose not to go with it, but hopefully they can find a creative fix here. They've got to find something. There's not a lot of options, Evan. It's really light. I've gone through team by team, and man, it's lean. It's real lean. Nathaniel Park says, when Alton Robinson comes back, we might get something out of him. I don't know what we can count on yet with Alton Robinson. Right now, the coaching staff knew going into these games that they didn't have a lot of pass rush, and yet they've kept him inactive. I don't know if he's maybe got a little rookie injury thing he's fighting off, but time to call in all the reserves. Not time to sit on any bullets in your holster. Get them in the gun and let's start firing, because it's going to be competing for league worst at this point if it stays on the same trajectory. Randall McDaniel says, to play devil's advocate, defense gave up 23 points, 67 yards on the ground. It's a fair point, Randall. It's an absolute fair point. I mean, and again, to your point, I guess we could say, Pete Carroll, what does he want to do first and foremost? Stop the run, limit the big play, turn you into a one-dimensional offense. Week 1, that's just what you did with the Falcons. They didn't run for nothing. They turned one-dimensional. You won the game. Week 2, you turned that offense into a one-dimensional attack, being the New England Patriots, kept them into a pass-centric nature. You won the game. It is a salient point in that respect. It's how they want to build things strategically. It's how they want to win strategically, and it's how they are winning strategically. So there is some designs here in what they're doing, but I can't imagine the designs are going to full on generate no pass rush for pretty much three and 3/4 quarters of the game. Daniel W. Yeah. And maybe Darrell Taylor can do something in a few weeks if he comes back. Whew, you guys, I'm glad you guys are optimistic on the youngsters, but I am not there, especially a guy getting a rod out of his leg that's been very slow to be able to come back. How much has he been able to train if he's been rehabbing this whole time? And with no rookie mini camps, with no training camp, with no preseason games, now missing the first couple of games, hard for me to find these guys coming back and just bursting onto the scene and just invigorating the pass rush out of nowhere like that. It's possible. They've got the talent, but we don't have a lot to go on to make that kind of prediction. Latrell Ellis says Jamal Adams is going to be a force. Jamal is. And look, he was our best pass rusher again here today. He probably had a little bit of a worse game than what he coming off of last week against the Falcons, and he's not played perfect up until this point. He's got some moments here where it's like, you missed the sack and you get beat deep on a play with Edelman. But with that said, Thank God we got him. Thank God they made that trade. Can you folks imagine if they'd be sitting on their first round picks right now and we'd be just running out that defense with what we are running out, right now? In addition to that, I don't know if we win this game at that point without it. It's that close of a difference, especially, and maybe not even last week too. He's definitely a welcome addition, Latrell. Daniel W says Jamal Adams is a force currently. Yeah, he is absolutely a force. Hello, Eiferman. Jamal Adams played bad tonight. He didn't play bad. He wasn't quite where he was last week. And again, I think that they were putting him in positions because he was being asked to play a little more slot corner kind of role. The guy can play every different position down in there. And that's sometimes to his benefit. And sometimes he's put in some tough positions. Being turned into kind of a slot corner up against Julian Edelman in that moment is a little bit of a rough assignment for him to pull. But I thought he played good overall tonight. He flashed in the running game again. He's part of the reason we didn't give up very many running yards. And he was good overall in coverage. He definitely cleaned a couple things up. And when he's got a chance to the sack like that coming up the middle where he's timed everything, and look, Cam does that to a lot of guys, but you got to get that sack in that moment. When we get to quarterbacks, okay, Kitty, stop. We got to get that. So TJ Wilborn says Shoddy is up on top because Pete can't do anything on the offense right now. I think so. You have to retype that. I don't know what you're saying on that one. Shoddy's up top because, he's up top in the booth. Yeah, I'm glad Shoddy's up in the booth. It's the best place for an offensive coordinator. All the great offensive coordinators, in my opinion, have always been up in the booth. It's only when you have a head coach calling the plays that it seems to work when you got him down the field, but that's only because he's got his offensive coordinator up in the booth. Nathaniel Parks says Jamal played okay. Yep, I think so too. He played okay. Played a little bit better. He played good. He was solid. Randall McDaniel, my boy Freddie Swain keeps showing up. One thing that kept the offense stalled were the damn penalties. We had a 1st and 20 multiple times. Yeah, the penalties weren't good. Brandon Shell's jumping offside, showing us shades of Jermaine Ifedi was a little frustrating. But it always seems to be a thing that is a little bit a part of this team. We always seem to have a good amount of penalties. Carroll's not one of those guys that harps on the penalty situation or always wants to run it clean as much. It seems like that's not as big a worry for him, but it hurt today. You could have really shot yourself in the foot if Russell wasn't throwing so many dimes out there with the penalty situation more. Daniel W says, do you think Diggs got ejected because refs favor Patriots? It's the first time I've ever seen helmet-to-helmet ejection. I thought the ejection was a little bit extreme. I would have been okay with the helmet-to-helmet hit. I think the ejection should come for situations where it's egregious and it's really like, a guy's targeted. The guy's really, if you look at it, they banged face masks. If he's going helmet to helmet, he's going to bring his helmet down and missile a guy. He's not going to go into the guy with his face mask first. They just collided. These kind of situations are going to happen on those kind of routes. Call the 15-yard penalty, but don't take the guy out of the game. Do I think he was because the officials were against the Hawks? I'm going to go no. I thought it was slightly officiated a little bit in favor of the Patriots throughout this game, but even the Lockett play on the thing, you cannot like that call, that block, that chop back block, not chop back block, but the backside block they called on Lockett. You cannot like that call, but it's in the rule book as it is. It's been put in there in recent years. It's the Hines Ward rule where, he used to decapitate guys coming back across the middle who were never seeing him. And so they had to call it because he was putting guys in ICUs, cutting 10 years off guys' lives with every hit. So they had to do what they had to do with it, but no, I'm not completely angry at the officials in this one. I felt like it was good enough game. Bleed Blue and Green, LJ and Leno saved the day. Am I hallucinating? Laughing my ass off. My oh my, what a finish! 2-0. Yeah, Bleed Blue and Green. They came in. Leno played really well in this one in spots. Again, he's going to struggle in coverage at times, which drives me nuts because he's really a liability out there in coverage. But the guy is willing to put his nose in there, and him and LJ combined on that final play. I mean, they did their part. They both had a tough assignment there. One's got to set the edge. The other's got to take the full back out as far and deep into the backfield as he possibly can so that there's no downward thing where they can catch Newton then kind of right at the line of scrimmage. And that's just what he did. So props to those guys. Randall McDaniel says DJ Moore is much improved. Made that nice shoestring catch on 3rd down. Obviously the TD reminiscent of his catch versus the Panthers. He gives us some juice on punt returns too. I agree. I like the guy on our team. He's got some juice. Like that's the best way I can say it. He's got some juice to him. He's got some talent, not just a guy out there, got some size to him. He's probably our best bubble screen guy in the open space right now. And that back, it's a props to Randall for mentioning too. Yeah, that was a really great catch. We're going to remember his toe tap there in the end zone, but he also made a great catch. I think it was on third down where he really had to reach out away from his body with Russell throwing those missiles out there. It's a tough catch. That's it's a low key hard one to grab. Ryan Kerrigan. Yep. I hope we can get Ryan, man. That looks like the good option. If we can just get Washington to buy in on it being a lost season. Nathaniel Park says kick punt returns were good today. Yep. Travis Homer played solid today. Not just in the kick and punt return game or in the kick return game, but he was awesome on a couple of runs at times. Ran with a little bit more speed this week than last week, it seemed like. And then also on the punt returns were solid too. David Moore get back. I'm just glad they got Lockett out of there. Save Lockett just for the offense now. We don't need him back there on punt returns. And Moore's good enough and stable enough at there just to go with him. Jaboy Michael, I lost 10 years of my life with that final play. I've calculated it, Jaboy. I've lost 17 years and 2 months of my life due to Seahawks games at this point. I was going to live to be 86. I'm now in the 70s, and it's ever dropping. Today cost me about 3 days at least because I'm becoming now more comfortable with it. Before I'd lose whole 6 month stands just because I'd let it get to me. But it's just the nature of the beast, my guy. It's lock yourself in. It's going to be like that this year. We're going to get into a lot of shootouts. We're going to get up on points at times, and look, the defense is going to let it up sometimes. I mean, we know to expect it, Fredo VB, Pats should have thrown the ball. No way. If I'm the Pats right there, there's no way, 0% chance that I go with trying to throw the football there. Newton seemingly has been money on those 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s up the middle. He always is that way. He's almost impossible to stop in those situations. I think if you had the data going back on his whole career, those kind of situations, he's probably converting it somewhere in the name of like 75 to 80%. I don't know how you can't go with that play I can't go with that call with just that read option up the middle at that point. It's been money for him so far this year too. Luke Miller, go Hawks. What's up, Luke? Luxy, how do you feel about Jamal Adams? How do you feel he played? I felt he played good. He had a couple of miscues this week, and like last week, he wasn't perfect last week either. This is a little bit of part of the reason why I do tend to just ask people to, again, with the extension talk on these guys, pop your brakes. Let's play it out 1 year. Let's see how it goes. Let's get a full year of data of him in a Seahawks uniform before we start throwing out all these extensions. But I thought he played real solid again today, and he is our best pass rusher. There's no doubt about it. And we don't have a lot of pass rushers. So, Dylan Wright about had a heart attack from that game. Dylan, me too. I'm with you, man. I come to expect it, Dylan, and it's the way our Seahawks play. We're one of the more exciting teams in the NFL. We seem to have more close games down to the wire. Look at our point differential last year, which was, I think, like 13 points cumulatively on an 11-win season or something like that. You're always in these close affairs, and I'm still expecting more of it this year. So it's just holding and just breathe, man. Try to walk. Clean. I start cleaning stuff in my house. It starts to become a whole ritual. Randall McDaniel, Adams kind of got worked by Edelman. Yeah, he did kind of everyone had their lunch full of Edelman. I'm going to be happy. I think this is the last time we ever have to see Julian Edelman play against the Seahawks. And after what he did us in the Super Bowl and after this game, I'm going to be perfectly happy not to see Julian Edelman play against the Seahawks ever again. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. That guy just seems to tear us apart. Hamza, what's up, Hamza? Go Hawks. One too many penalties and poor pass rush should have kept this game closer than it should have been. Yeah, I'd say the same. The penalty situation got a little absurd as it just kept mounting and more and more and more and more. You're okay with the one with Damian Lewis when he gets a holding call on a pass rush. Damian's going to struggle in pass protection at time. He also opened up some nice lanes for you in the running game, and he's been solid for you overall. You're okay with that when that happens. It's the false start stuff from Greg Olsen. You're a 14, 15-year vet in this league. Why are you false starting at this point? Same thing for Shell. Those unforced type of errors and penalties are the ones that really drive you crazy because it's the ones you can control. Can't control sometimes the holding penalty stuff's going to happen, but those ones you can control. The snap count. Hillel, thoughts on next week's game? I'm going to expect next week's game is going to be a complete shootout. You have to figure the Cowboys are going to run a little bit of juice off that last second win this last week. They had to be at the lowest of lows looking at their season, teetering on the edge. And man, it would have been nice to meet up against them at them being 0-2 and kind of beaten and maybe starting to feel like it's time to just bring the wagons home. Instead, we're going to get them right into it where they now get to think, hey, no, we're back on this division. We're the contenders and the leaders for this division. They get to come into Seattle. The crowd noise is not going to be a factor like we saw in this game. That seems to be a big loss to our team. I'm expecting us not to really be able to stop their receivers. They've got 3 good ones. They really do. They're going to be able to attack mismatches. Even without that tight end, they go to those 3 wide receiver looks. You're going to get Ugo on the football field at that point. It's going to be a little bit rough and tough, I think, at times. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Dak up around 350 and Russell around 350. I'll just go back in line and believe that we're going to be able to keep them to field goals when we score touchdowns. And then in the turnover battle, we will win that. And those will be the determining factors at the end of the day, because you're going to be able to run against them. You're also going to be able to pass against them. They're not, I think, good in either of those 2 aspects of things. So that opens it up for you offensively to also be able to dominate like kind of we dominated a little bit today. But it's going to be another one of those tough games, bro. It's going to be another one of those tough games where you're just going, geez, this is it's going to be rough. Mr. Krabs, you're also Ringo. What's up, Ringo? Bleed Blue and Green, Hawks Nest, #1 podcast being heard all points of the compass. That's right. We're worldwide. Please do smash that like button if you are in the chat right now. And if you're not subscribed, what the hell are you doing? Come on, subscribe. Luxie, how do you think Jamal Adams played? Jamal played good. Solid, Luxie. Not great, just good. Don't think he played bad. Played good. We got to get him out of the slot, too. Jeff Rhines, I'm worried about the injuries that we took on. We don't have a ton of depth on our defense, but go Hawks. We'll take another win. Go Hawks, man. Give you the shaka. I'm working on my shaka. Yes, the injury situation is going to be disconcerting here, especially from the pass rush. Right now, you're not generating any pass rush. You have Rasheem Green's got an injury with his neck or shoulder or some problem there. They're not really exactly exacerbating. Maybe it's a stinger. Bruce Irvin looked like he went down to at least best case scenario at this point. Looks like a twisted ankle, high ankle sprain. That's going to be a 4 to 6 weeker. Now you've got Darrell Taylor, a guy you give up a second and a third round pick for, struggling to come back. He's having a tough time of it. It gets leaner at a position that's already maybe your biggest weakness. It's got to be concerning. It's got to be worrisome. It's not time to panic yet, but it is a little bit, it's worrisome. Jonathan Salazar, you think we beat in Dallas next week? Jonathan, I think we beat him, but we think we barely beat him, and it's another heart attack Hawks type win. It's going to come down the last second, probably a last second Russell Wilson type drive. Like one of those games where whoever has the ball last is the one that wins. But I'm going to go with my Hawks at this point. I think we're at home still. Cowboys have got some holes. That defense I don't think is very good at all. I think we can do it. I think we can take it. Sean Jaladine, or is it Halaline? Blair has a torn ACL. I would believe that he would, Sean. I don't think we can get the confirm on that until they can do an MRI, which usually takes about a day. But I would be absolutely shocked at this point if we're not looking at a torn ACL or at least a torn MCL, a medial collateral ligament. It's unfortunate. The kid was really looking good, especially on that tackle. Jumps up and pulls the guy down on a 1-yarder. Looks good. Just a brutal injury. Randall McDaniel, Russ looks faster and his ball has more juice. Through 2 games, he's missed on 2 to 3 balls tops. His accuracy is ridiculous. Decision-making, off the charts. I 100% agree, Randall. Absolutely agree with you on that. I thought after the first game, I saw the same thing. He looks like he's got a couple of more RPMs on that fastball, and he's delivering it with that kind of authority in there where it's humming, and the ball is coming out of his hand fast. Got to say he's looked good in that respect. Faster, he's maybe a little faster, maybe. It's hard. He's definitely looked good when he's moved around. He hasn't looked slow. He's looked nimble. He's gotten out of trouble when he needs to, and he's running with it's almost more of the purposefulness by which Russell Wilson is operating from this year. He's purposeful in his reads. He's purposeful in when he's looking to scramble. I've seen him not as willing to just go to the baseball slide every time where he's going to try to get the extra few yards. He really does seem to have a sense of urgency this year in his play where he understands he's in his prime. Now's the time to go get it. Now's the time to separate myself as a quarterback from not only my peers, but from those others historically around me. And he's going for that, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. Sean, probably. JSD, why is it sunny? I am now living in Maui, JSD. So I've made the transition here to Maui. This backdrop is not going to be my permanent backdrop, but I still have not gotten all my stuff because the United Postal Service has got their head firmly up their butt. They're taking forever to get my deliveries here. But we'll have a setup here soon enough. I've got this massive green screen I just bought. So, yeah, you guys, we're going to be expanding here a little bit. Daniel Park says Carson and Hyde Homer played well against blitzes in the run. The pass great plays. Yeah, the running backs have been very great. Not great, but they've been super solid for us this year so far. Homer struggled a little bit in the first game. Great in this game on his runs. Hyde's been what we thought he would be, which is a reasonable facsimile for Carson. They're very similar type players. So when he comes in, when Carson leaves, you don't have to feel like you're losing something necessarily when he comes on the football field. He can grind out those inside zone runs and get you those extra couple yards, fall forward, drag defenders, all the nice things that we like in Carson's game. Hyde has that. And then as you mentioned as well, Nathaniel, they've been money out of the backfield. Guys have had solid hands. I don't think one running back's had a drop yet. And how nice is it to watch Russell utilizing his backs out of the backfield? It's been something he's been hesitant to do in the past, but he's utilizing them now. And if he can utilize backs out of the backfield, he can make those throws, which are really kind of low-key tough throws for Russell because sometimes he's got to throw around the big defensive end coming around the side and get it out to the running back and around, where those guys that are 6'4", 6'5" can easily kind of throw over the top of those defensive ends at that point. But for him, if he can bring that into his game, he's going to just force those defenders that much further up to have to cover those short routes, and maybe that opens things up on the back end. Raxney. What's up, Raxney? I hope I pronounced it right. How you doing, Rax? Sean, opinion on Shell. What's the second best option for him? Shell is kind of like what I thought he was, and I think is going to continue to be, which is that your best case is to hope for him to be a moderate upgrade over Ifedi. And by moderate, I mean like half of a centimeter. He really is very similar to Ifedi in size and play and movement, all those things. They just kind of got another Ifedi in here in a lot of respects. He's not been horrible. He's not been had pass rushers just running past him. I would argue he's not been challenged yet, really like he's going to be challenged here soon enough, where you might see him become a little bit more of a liability at that point. But he's been okay. He's been all right. I think when the Pro Football Focus grades come out, they'll show him as being below league average as a right tackle right now. And that's what I've seen with my eyes. Cordell Carter, that game shouldn't have been that close. Cordell, you're not wrong. Shouldn't have been that close. This defense can't generate any pass rush. I mean, when you have an end of the game, you're up by 10 points in the fourth quarter, your pass rushers can pin their ears back, as they like to say, right? That means I don't have to think about the run. All I've got to do is pin my ears back and get to the quarterback. That's supposed to be a benefit to the defensive line. It's supposed to put them in positions to be able to be successful there in generating pressure. Did it? No. So it's a problem. Irvin sprain, Blair fairly serious, Pete said. Yep, just like when I called it. You guys, I don't even need to listen to the doctor. I can just look on the TV and tell you guys. So best case scenario, high ankle sprain for Irvin. That's a 4 to 6 weeker at least. Unfortunately, we got to pour a little bit of our drink out for Blair. It's going to be another year before we see Marquis on the football field. Very sad. Cordell Carter, Courtney Dunbar should have had 3 INTs up until now. Yep. Yeah, he's had his hands on 3 balls, picked off one of them, but the guy's got a nose for the ball. That's what we hope we got with this guy. It's one of the things that's missing with a guy like Shaquille Griffin, who just never gets his hands on any balls. He's never going to be a guy that's going to be a high amount of interceptions over a season. You need that in this defense. You need guys who know when they can pull the trigger on plays and jump a route, when they can read the route combinations, trust the film, trust their feet, go. And he did it. He might be a guy coming. He might be a real important player in the secondary as we move forward. But yeah, he missed one last week and 2 in this game. You're right. Cole Churka says, would Snacks allow Reed to get more pressure with 4 defensive linemen? I don't think it would. It would just provide a better rotation, Cole. Because Reed right now is playing, as I see it, the 3 tech for the most part. I think they do bounce him around a little bit based on offensive formation, so they'll flip him based on that. But an ideal situation here is that you've got him at 3 tech, and it's more of Puna and Snacks flipping out between the 1 tech as much as anything else. Just getting another body in there. Keep everybody fresh. Randall McDaniel says, I think our O-line played well. Russ got sacked twice, hit 8 times. Completely agree. I got no problem with our O-line. One of my notes in this game was one of the things to watch, and that's been an interesting, good development. I know early on in the game, my guy Iupati got rolled up into Dwayne Brown, which sucked. But if you watch those two guys working together on the left side, and not just in the run block game, they both can run block. We both know that about them. But in their ability to handle pass rushers and specifically stunts and handing guys off, those guys are working really fluidly on that left side. And it gives, I think, Russ a lot of confidence in his dropbacks there, just knowing this side's taken care of. I've just got to watch the front side for the pressure coming up from the Damian Lewis side, the pressure coming up off that other end. It makes his job a little bit easier. And that goes back to last year. Those guys were showing that on film even last year. So props to the offensive line. They played well enough in this game. The Patriots don't challenge you with a lot of great pass rushers. It'll be interesting to see once we go up against the Rams, right? Once we're up against some of these teams that actually have some guys that can get after it. Tim Shumi, what's up, Tim? Let the Bears pay the bear tax. I pay the homer tax. I'll pay the homer tax as well. You and me both, man, all day. Welcome on the chat, Tim. The life of Ethan Ripple. Go Hawks. 1 yard short, baby. Doesn't matter if it was 1 yard short or 99 yards short. It's still a victory. Still counts as a win, and that's all that matters to us, right? Welcome on the chat. Life of Ethan. Or I should just say Ethan. Nathaniel Parks. Will Diggs even be able to play next week's suspension fines? What do you think? Well, because this ejection rule has been so utilized so often, I've got to claim, I don't know what really the rules are on that, if he is really going to be in contention for being suspended for another game. I think he's got to be reviewed. If I'm remembering correctly, they look at it. But man, to make him have to miss next week's game after him losing this whole game on that hit, it just seems really egregious. And again, kind of strangely arbitrary, because they don't utilize this rule very often. Can you guys mention to me who the last guy you guys can remember getting ejected, not named, who's that guy for the Raiders and the Cincinnati Bengals, that middle line, Vontaze Burfict, not named Vontaze Burfict, name a guy gets ejected for the targeting, and he deserves it. That's a guy that targets. I mean, that's who the rule's built for. Randall McDaniel, I thought Ugo played okay. He's always around the ball, albeit sometimes it's because the wide receiver catches the ball. It's very true, Randall. And I thought he played really solid out the gate. He got Edelman came on the fly sweep. He read it, which is always great when you're watching him read it. And it was coming on the heels of a play before where he misread and misdiagnosed what was going on. So it was good to see him kind of recover on that. He's a competitive kid. He's got some talent. He's got some speed, some athleticism to him. But is he the answer there for me at long term at the nickel corner position? I don't know. I think we're going to be seeing him struggle at times out of that slot at points. It's a big loss with Blair, but he did okay. He had a couple of good plays, a couple of bad plays. President credit card. Seattle should have ran it, and New England should have passed it. Oh, okay. Well, I do think on the third one, Seattle should have ran it. So we agree with, I think that's what you're speaking towards. If I'm New England in that situation, if I'm the offensive coordinator, if I throw it and Cam Newton overthrows a guy at the goal line somewhere else, everyone's going to be killing me all week saying, well, Cam Newton is the best player in the league for running at a quarterback position for running third and short in the history of the NFL. How do you not make that call there? I don't know how they don't run it there at that point. I don't know I don't think you take 32 offensive coordinators in the NFL. I don't think one of them passes there in that moment with Cam Newton at quarterback, knowing all that. Sean, Jalajin, Adams, and I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing your last name. It's probably the Halain. Adams can cover the tight end, but got beat by Edelman all night. Yeah, he did struggle a little bit with Edelman. I think they tried to match him up a little bit at times because they had lost Blair and they were trying to not get, Ugo Amadi with Edelman. But I don't really think it's Adams' game to be really lined up in the slot. You can have him do it from time to time. He's, like you said, he's best for a tight end, but you just don't want him in there as the slot answer, not in my opinion. B. Russ, we need some damn pressure on this quarterback. Yeah, we do, buddy. Boy, don't we ever. Daniel Parks, it's not the Redskins, it's the football team. That's right. It is the football team. I don't know if I'm going to be able to remember to do that, Nathaniel. I have 40 plus years of calling them the Redskins. It's going to be rough making that change for me. John Robinson, this lack of pass rush is worse than this lack of pass rush is worse than what I thought I believe, even though the Patriots O-line is always among the best in the league with Scarnecchia. Yeah, the Patriots do have a very good offensive line. They showed the Pro Football Focus grades before the game. You could see they're getting Andrews back there at the center position. They are very, very good on the offensive line. Make no mistake about it, especially in pass protection. That's a line built for pass protecting. With that said, John, it is like what I thought at the end of last season, where you need to address this in a big time way. And they tried to go with some young guys in the draft that aren't yet on the field, and you didn't re-sign Clowney, and we can go down the list. But it's sorry about we got these guys on their little motorbikes outside, so sorry about that. So it's a problem. The defensive line is bad. It's one of the worst in the league. It is. It doesn't matter in saying, well, we got Jamal Adams, we'll just have him. That's not an option. Saying we're just going to lean back on Jamal Adams to be our only pass rush element. It's not going to work. And work in the respective look. We can get to the playoffs. We can win a couple playoff games maybe. But are we going to be able to win a Super Bowl with this pass rush where it currently is at? Hard to see. Hard to see. John Robinson says, anybody know how bad the Blair injury is? John, I don't. It looks bad though, buddy. It looks torn ACL-ish. Random McDaniel says Kerrigan didn't register a stat today. They got a 4 first-round picks on that line. I'd trade Penny for him. I would too. At this point, running back looks pretty solid. Your guys, I mean, even if Travis Homer, I don't want to give him a lot of carries, but it looks like he's at least a functional running back for you in that spot. You could save your draft picks at that point. Washington needs it. It's a trade that seems to make a lot of sense. Though it is odd that he didn't. I haven't watched a lot of film on Kerrigan. It was just the one name I could see when I went down my list, Randall, because there just wasn't many guys on the list to look at who would be available. Who's the team that's going to be willing to give up a guy. The other guy I was thinking of was maybe the Broncos would sell on a guy like Jarrell Casey. A guy I think has played in a lot more of a 3-4 scheme a little bit, but I was wondering about him too as well. Fiji Mark says DK is going to be special. He is going to be special. When he did what he did today. Hold on, folks. Just a second. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Got a mom here, so we're gonna keep going here. Nathaniel Park says the Seahawks need that third linebacker if they want to stay in that 4-3. Well, you're probably going to see a lot. For those of you that didn't like the base defense last year, you're going to probably see a lot more of it now. You don't have great options there at the slot cornerback position. So now it looks like you're going to probably have to lean back. I don't expect them to go to the 70% mark they were last year, Nathaniel, but that's probably going to be an option as well, especially Jordan Brooks, who does have very good speed. So they may look at it. They're going to maybe have to get creative here a little bit with it. I can give you a call. You can chill if you want. I appreciate it. Mom's dropping off stuff. I'm under quarantine, folks, so I'm reliant on Mom to be dropping off stuff here. She lives here, and so she's being nice enough to bring me over a couple things. Iridescent says, thoughts on Ugo Amadi? He made some good plays. Ugo did make some good plays, solid. Iridescence, he also got burned a little bit, and some of the reasoning there where we got kind of Cam Newton moving the ball up the field. It's his guy who's beating him. He's still not showing me a lot in coverage. I know he can tackle. I know he's physical. I know he's feisty. I know he can hit a little bit, but I don't know if he can cover. That's the place where I still have my concerns and worries with the guy. Randall McDaniel says, did we blitz less because of Cam's feet? Yeah, you did. That's the problem with blitzing is you blitz these guys like that, and especially with a guy like Cam who really – he's not a Russell type or a Lamar type where it's really about him trying to get to the edges. You blitz, he's just going to look for one of the pass rush lanes that opens up you're not coming through, and he'll go right up the field that way. And he did it a couple times in this game. That's where he gets you with his feet. So it's much better usually to try to shrink him on the zones and take advantage of the fact he's not accurate that's more of what you're going to want to do, is squeeze down those zones and force him to be accurate with the football, pushing it down the football field. And he was today because you didn't have any pass rush. John Robinson, that is literally all our team needs is a premier pass rusher, and we are Super Bowl bound. I do not disagree with you, John. And this is a thing I've been banging the drum for, as everyone will know on this live stream, for a very, very long time. We need pass rush. This defense is built around that front four generating pass rush. When it doesn't, the defense falls apart like you saw today. And it doesn't matter if you've got a defensive player of the year candidate in Jamal Adams back there. It becomes irrelevant. Part of what we talked about here is that this is the great experiment we're going to see this season. Seattle this offseason decided to really invest into that secondary and go to the new model of the analytics, which say that the defenses are to now be built in the modern age from the back end to the front, not from the front to the back. That's what they're telling us. And Seattle took a page out of that book and said, okay, we like that lesson. We're going to run with that. And now we're seeing after 2 games kind of what happens with that, which is that when you run with that mold, you can have all the guys in the back end you want that are great at covering. But this is the brass tacks that I go down to on this, the bottom line every single time. If I've got a guy out there who can't cover past 5 seconds, he's a liability after 5 seconds. But for 5 seconds, he can cover his butt off. Well, it's all irrelevant if I got a pass rusher who in 3.5 seconds can get to the quarterback, because that guy's going to have that guy covered in that time, isn't he? Now let's flip it the other way. Flip it the other way. If I've got a guy back there that can cover for 7-8 seconds, which would then be a lead over that other cornerback, right? I'm paying for that elite play. I give up draft picks for that. I get a 5th rounder, get Dunbar who can hold on for that 7-8 seconds. If my pass rush ain't getting there in but 11 or 12 or 13 seconds, or then not at all, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he's better in coverage, because the results will still be the same. A man will break open, a quarterback will pass it to him, and there will be a completion. Now, that was always my contention on this stuff. Will it play out this way for the full course of the season? We have to give it that amount of time. 2 games is too small of a sample size to say this isn't working. But the results aren't great. And the results fall back in line with, there's a reason why mantras are mantras. There's a reason why cliches are cliches. In football, they say you got to build it in the trenches. And if you're not going to build it in the trenches, at least on one side of the ball, then you certainly better build it on the other side of the ball. I got behind the chat, but I'm catching up, folks. John Robinson, how bad are all the 49er injuries that happened this week? Well, their season's on the brink. I mean, there's no 2 ways of cutting this in any other way about it. You know, you lose Bosa, who is your pass rush jewel. I understand D Ford's got an injury. Solomon Bates has now gone down. Not that Solomon's been all that great, but I don't know if I mispronounced his name. But they've gotten dinged. And Sherman's got that injury going on, which when I listen to some people talk about it, some experts kind of talking about that injury. And one guy was asking a doctor about it a little bit. I think that injury is probably coming out of his Achilles and some of the soreness from that. And I feel like a little bit of like what somebody else was saying, that I think Richard last year was really kind of willing himself through last year, getting that body through one more year, his one more shot at the Super Bowl. And it kind of potentially emptied his tank at that point. I don't know if that's the way it went down. I don't know if that's the truth of it, but Witherspoon's had some injuries. He's been in and out. The receiving core is what it is. Mostert went out as well, John. They're one running back that they're really counting on. They let Breida go this offseason. There comes a point, we saw this last year with our team. There comes a point with the injury situation where it mounts and it becomes too much. Now, is everyone going to go through this equally? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. We saw injuries start to mount with us this week. You know, all suddenly you go, okay, we're down Rasheem, we're down Bruce Irvin, we got Marquis Blair knocked out. You go, okay, so everyone's starting to get dinged a little bit, and we all knew this was coming. With the lack of training this offseason, the injuries were going to be bigger for everybody. So everybody could end up in the same bucket, John, but make no mistake about it, the Niners are probably feeling it as tough and as badly as any NFL team out there right now. Nick Bosa's done. Lucas Guerrero. A lot of people are saying the secondary was terrible, but we had starters out. Lucas, I mean, it was tough when you lose your 2 free safeties. That's the tough part right there. I mean, that hurt. That hurt big time when that went down like that. And you were going to give up some plays there with it. I think, Lucas, the secondary was not the problem in this game. The problem really comes out of you don't generate pass rush. It just goes back to the point I talked about a second ago. You can't put those guys on an island for 10, 11 seconds and say, why didn't you cover 11 seconds? No cornerback in this league should you be asking them to do that. These athletes are too good on the offensive side of the ball. They're going to get open. So I don't think it's the secondary. I think I put Mr. Guerrero, I put more to that front four, just not getting any kind of pressure. Evergreen, we don't want DK to be an all-pro yet. That'll make his next contract more expensive. Evergreen, he's going to cost through the roof as it is. We just have to enjoy the discounted deal we get right now for this year and next year, because once his deal comes up in the next one, we're going to be paying him probably in the realm of, at this point, around $25 million per season. So just make your peace with that fact that's coming down. Pool Boy 125. All we had to do was make a 3rd and 1 and the game is ours, and we throw a long pass. No. Well, Pool Boy, I agree with you. I didn't love the call, but again, they've also made that call, as I pointed to recently, as recently as last week. You had a 4th and 5 against the Falcons. It's a close game. You go for it. Okay, run a 7-yard out. Run a 8-yard dig. No. They go deep up over the top to DK, and it works. And this is echoed a couple years ago with David Moore in the Panther game, 4th down and something or other, and you go on a deep ball to him. It seems to be in their nature that they're just going to kind of play it that way. I don't necessarily hate it, to be honest with you. And my reasoning being is that you've got guys you can trust one-on-one on the outside. Lockett and DK win a lot on the outside, and they're some of the better players at getting deep in the league. So trusting them on a play like that, when you've got a defense selling out to stop the run, I don't hate it because it's aggressive, and I want the team to be aggressive. Splash and skills. Man, I legit thought we were going to choke again. I wasn't on the choke train. I still felt okay, but man, when they lined up on that short with Cam Newton, I wasn't hugely confident there. It just seems like Cam throughout his career, it's been automatic when he's in that alignment that close, and he only needs a yard. Nathaniel Parks, Shoddy let Russ cook, so that works for me. He did. They went a little more conservative this week, but they did enough of the throwing, and they did enough of calling those deep shots and letting Russell go. So Shoddy he's called a great couple of games. Obviously, Russell's playing out of his mind, MVP, runaway MVP right now through 2 games. But Shoddy's doing a great job in his 3rd season with Russell of really putting him in places to not just the deep passes, but the crossers, to get into some of the geekiness of the X's and O's in this game. As they were talking about in the telecast, they went with a lot of zone coverage in this game, the Patriots did, which was unusual because the Patriots tend to like to go into a lot of man-on-man coverage instead. That's their bread and butter. That's how they shut you down, and then they blitz the hell out of you and put their guys on islands. But in this game, they went into a lot of zone. Well, Schottenheimer sort of counters with running a lot of those same kind of crossing routes that kill our zone, that have been those Seattle beater plays that you saw with Lockett coming over the middle or David Moore coming over the middle. And they just had it seemingly all day, even the Freddie Swain touchdown right there over the middle on those kind of crossing route right through, just killing that zone defense. So great job as far as from a schematic play calling from Schottenheimer. And then, of course, Russell Wilson with the immaculate execution. Najee Eastwick, what is Pete Carroll doing on 3rd and 1? So yeah, just Najee, just the theory goes is that you're in 3rd and 1, you're in a 3rd and short, you're in a 4th and short. The defense knows you only are trying to get a couple yards. They're going to squeeze those zones up tighter. They're going to bring an extra guy down in the box. It's going to be that much harder to get that yard. And while you'd like to believe you can blow guys off the ball and do that, there's a thought process here of I've got DK out one-on-one on the outside with the single coverage, or I've got Tyler Lockett in that case singled out one-on-one coverage. I think Tyler can win that. And, it's worked. Not every time for them. They've done it before, and it has worked before. So I know it is an oddity on it. I get it. I know why you guys wouldn't necessarily like it, but I still dig it. Anthony Bain says, maybe we can go get Derek Barnett or Brandon Graham from the Eagles. It's possible. It's a great suggestion, Anthony. Both of those guys would be 2 pass rushers who would fit within our scheme. I don't think both of them would cost you through the roof to bring them on over. Probably Barnett's more likely to go. Brandon Graham feels like an Eagle for life a little bit, just as long as he's been there and whatnot. But maybe Barnett, who's a very good rusher, and would probably be a 4th rounder, would probably be about right. I feel like on that one. Jaboy Michael, I know this is a little no, so wanted or maybe, but but could we cut KJ, get Earl, move Diggs to nickel, and get Snacks? No, I don't think you're going to see that happen, your boy Michael. And I know why. I know where you're going. It's an inventive way to clear up some cap space. I think you could probably get both Earl and Snacks Harrison if you wanted with the cap space you still do have available. But yeah, KJ at this point, folks, we're looking at him for the full ride of this year. Unfortunately, it looks like he had a couple plays in there this week, but man, that Blair hit was brutal. Randall McDaniel says maybe a weird take, but is a byproduct of Russ cooking, forcing the opponent to pass more, really showcasing our glaring weakness at pass rush. Through 2 games, our pass rush D equals 46 carries and 135 yards. No, I don't think I tend to go in that route. Certainly, when if this is a closer game, is New England going to be throwing as much as they were at the end? Probably not. But we do now have over almost 2 seasons of this kind of data to go, or a season and now 2 games to go off of, and seeing the same kind of lack of pass rush. And when you last year weren't letting Russ cook and you had no pass rush, it looks very, very similar to this year when you're letting Russ cook and there being no pass rush. It doesn't seem to matter whether the opposition is throwing 30 times a game or 50 times a game. You're just not having anybody win at the line of scrimmage. You're not having anybody get close. I mean, we don't even see the opposition get holding calls against our defensive linemen because they're not even getting close. They're not even pressing those linemen to the point of having to hold. It's just the reality of where it is. It is just that bad, Randall. Your boy Michael Anthony, Nathaniel Parks, but the Eagles have nested on IR, so I'm good. Yeah, the Eagles are definitely, I think, got one too many injuries as well. Matt Howard, I'm still worried, though. Russ and the Hawks started off this hot at the beginning of last year. Still a lot of season left, and we've seen this before. True enough, Matt. True enough, and welcome on in the chat. The one thing I would counter to you on this is this, Matt. Last year, as you were going through, what started to happen? You got through your 4 or 5 games, and then, bam, here came that injury situation. Because let's not forget, Matt, we lost more injuries to starter last year than anybody else in the NFL. So the 2 big detriments to us last year that we couldn't control that came out of nowhere. You had more injuries lost to anybody else in the NFL, and you played the toughest strength of schedule in the entire NFL. Well, those are the 2 things that I am hoping are going to flip a little bit this year. So when you lost Isley last year, Matt Howard, and then you didn't have a lot there as far as the tight end position beyond him, it got kind of weak there. You're trotting out Hollister, and then the offensive line, which early on was creating those holes in the running game and pass protecting relatively well. Well, the injury started to mount there too, right? You lose Britt. You lose Ayupati. Guys get beat up a bit. So last year, it was really about the injury thing kind of took you down to where you just didn't have the dogs on the outside to make it happen. Lockett got hurt at one point or another, and certainly we're going to have injuries this year as well too. But that's where it's a little bit nice and maybe where we can point to the one good aspect of their team building from this offseason. Because what they did do is they bring in Greg Olsen, and now Disley's not out there running these snaps early on here. He's kind of in and out a little bit here and there, coming along back from his injury. You've buttressed up against a little bit of that injury situation. Likewise at the wide receiver core. You still got Josh Gordon coming back into the mix now. You still got David Moore coming in. Maybe if you get injuries popping up along a couple extra guys in that wide receiver core, God forbid, you could still go get an Antonio Brown if things got dicey. So, Matt, I don't think we'll have the drop-off as far as the talent is concerned. Now, offensive line, you don't have a lot of depth there. It could get weird with that. But I don't think we'll run into the same problem offensively as we did last year with the fall-off you're talking about midway through. Left Turn Productions, my heart is still racing, laughing my ass off. What a game. Seahawks are some of the best television, bar none, have been for a decade straight. Say what you will about, man, we should have a couple rings or whatever. Every single week, they bring the entertainment value. You are going to be, there's no television show out there, no drama, no Netflix movie that you're going to watch that's going to give you that kind of, oh my God, get past the commercial, get back to it. It's why I love the NFL so much when it gets to that kind of stage. It drives you crazy. You have a heart attack. You say in the back of your mind, why couldn't it just be a blowout? But man, is it fun to watch. Talon, Seahawks are the best. Thanks, man. I think so too, man. I think so. We might just be this year, Talon. We're 2-0. Hey, we're undefeated. Number 1 in the division. Ryan Dallas says, I would have liked us to go for it on 4th and 1. No, that would have been ballsy, Ryan. I think you were on your own 36-yard line or something like that. I mean, you were deep in your territory at that point. I can't, there is a part of you though in that moment that starts to think that, isn't it? When you're watching the defense just get sliced and diced, you just start to think, well, just get yourself in a position to give Russ at least a minute back on the clock if you let him score. You get that pessimistic about their ability to do anything. It's really kind of rough in that respect, but I don't think you could have been able to go for 4th in your territory. If you're a little closer to midfield, if you're beyond midfield, maybe you got a little bit more guts to do it there, but that would have been that would have been not only big balls to do it, that would have been just saying that we're putting up a complete white flag on our defense right now. They can't stop anything. But I see why you think that. So I understand. Raw Vegas Todd, how about that TD catch by Moore? Amazing catch, body control. Getting that secondary foot down was just awesome. And the catch is great too. I mean, he's sort of playing like a basketball player there in the post where it's one arm's off of you. You've got the other arm off. It's not necessarily a one-handed catch, but it's sort of moving you to the one-handed catch in the way you've got to do it, all while then getting the foot back down and bounce. Say nothing of the fact Russell's throw was just le magnifique. But David Moore, absolutely, that's on him there as much as anything else. He's the one that made that play happen. So fantastic catch. Absolutely fantastic. In fact, a great day by David Moore. Maybe one of his best games, if not his best game as a Seattle Seahawk out there. What's up, pool boy? Aloha, boom shakalaka. What's up, brah? You stay, brother Brandon. Oh, brah, how do you stay, brother Brandon? I am staying good, man. I'm chilling. I'm in my unit, as you can see here, just getting kind of settled in. So I'm doing great. Randall McDaniel says, let's not sign Earl. Can't we play Flowers at Blair's position? Well, Flowers, I don't think would be a free safety. I think he was a strong safety back in college. So I don't think that would work necessarily. And I don't know that Flowers would work necessarily as a slot guy either. He's a little bit too tall, I think, to get in that slot. Can Dunbar slide into the slot? Maybe. There's going to have to be some turning over of some creative options. And there's one certain thing about it, Randall. There's not an exact answer as to what you would do here or which route you'd go. I get where you're going from on Earl, but man, if you lose Quandre Diggs right now, you're going to run with Lano Hill as your starting free safety. I don't know if I want to, in a year where I want to go for the Super Bowl with Earl Thomas sitting on the market, not having anybody else offering him anything really. It looks a tiny bit attractive to me. I'm not all on board on it, but there's a glimmer of me that's going, well, Nathaniel Park says Jamal was the glue that was leaking on the defense. So I think I know what you mean on that, Nathaniel, that he was the glue keeping the defense together, I think is what you're saying. I believe. Boom Shakalaka, Jamal Adams worth every first round pick and that third rounder too. Boom Shakalaka. I agree with you, man. I think he's shown himself to be worth that value. It was not an overpay. And this guy's going to be a foundational piece on that defense. Eventually once they really do get a pass rush to, I think we'll really get to see him at his best when there's a little bit more there up front. But I'm happy. I'm still loving the trade to this day. Loved it on the day it happened. Loved it throughout. Loving it right now. Larry Williams, how you doing, Larry? They need Matthews and Snacks ASAP. I am 100%. I agree. You've got to get, and again, I know, Larry, we've got a lot of people in the chat that are not big Clay Matthews fans because he's sent a few forearm shivers into Russell Wilson's mouth over the years. Of course, that famous play in 2014 where on the interception return, he came right across his chops. But hey, at the end of the day, this is the best that's out there. From Clay Matthews to the next available pass rusher out there, it's right about there. So it's a far drop off. You're not going to get a better guy than Benson Mayowa out there in free agency, in my opinion, as an edge rusher. I think Clay can come in and give you a reasonable pass rush win rate, far beyond what you're getting out of anybody else right now on this roster. And it's desperately needed, whether you hate the guy or not, my opinion. As well as Larry Snacks, yes. You need another big body in there. They stopped the run well, but I was going in my mind, I kept thinking, and there's a bunch of people online as I was reading up on Snacks going, oh, he just gives you nothing pass rush wise. He's literally just a waste of. I'm going, boy, but how could it be worse than this? How could he be giving you worse pass rush than this? And when I watched Snacks in the past, he's been able to push a pocket back. He's been able to apply a little bit of pressure. So I hope they go that route, Larry. I do. And I think they're going to do something. I can't see him just rolling with what they got right now. Yummy. What is up, Yummy? The fuck? What was that disqualification of Diggs? I didn't like the disqualification at all. I understand the helmet-to-helmet hit, but throw the flag, call it that. Don't disqualify him. It's not targeting. Give me a break. It's a gross overreaction by the officials at that point in the game, in my opinion. Anthony Bain, Seahawks fans seem to think Darrell Taylor is Chase Young. That guy can't save the pass rush even when he comes back. Yeah, I think if your answer as a Seahawks fan is to believe that Alton Robinson and Darrell Taylor are the solution to our pass rush worries this year, you're making that proclamation based on no data. You're just saying that because you're looking at where they were drafted and going, well, it's got to be something there, right? They've got to give it, but no, not necessarily. Not necessarily. There could be less than what you're getting now from the current pass rushers and those two guys when they do get on the field. They're not certain things. They're not even things you can relatively count on. I'm hoping there's something there, but if you're resting your hopes on those guys being the things that flip it around, as Anthony's talking about, you're placing your bets in the wrong horse. We need legitimate talent in here that can produce right now, not a hope and a wing and a prayer. TJ Wilborn, have you decided to go live every week now? I will be going live after every game, TJ. So I will be doing that unless something goes on with that. And I'll still be doing the every other Saturday shows. So I'll get those mixed in. But for now, that'll be all where we're going. We may ramp it up a little bit more if we get some more continued, hey, we continue to get more and more folks. You guys keep asking for it. I'll provide it if you want. Boom Shakalaka. He should be in Maui and in quarantine. I am in Maui and I am in quarantine. I'm sitting right now in quarantine. I'm a week in. A couple of days ago, it was a little bit like the opening scene in Apocalypse Now with Martin Sheen, where he's just sort of staring into the ether. So I'm not completely gone out of my mind, but I think by next week, I'm going to be climbing the walls. Nathaniel Park says, I thought only Cam could get ejected for hitting someone so hard because he was the enforcer. And Cam never got injected, which is funny. And I don't think that Diggs hit that guy any harder than Cam hit Vernon Davis a couple of years ago. But yeah, the ejection stuff is just like, use it when you know the guy's targeting. When there's those moments, we all know it when we see it. When the guy comes in and does just an incredibly dirty thing. That was a bang bang play over the middle. Those kind of collisions are going to happen. Ryan Dallas's thoughts on getting Earl. My thoughts on Earl are a little bit like the Clay Matthews situation. We would all love to stand and be in a position of, I don't want that guy. I don't like him. I want this thing that's more ideal. Like we all want to be in that spot as it applies to upgrading this team and getting them better, specifically on the defensive line and the pass rush and whatever else. But unfortunately, when you look out you're going to the grocery store, this is like going into a bodega in New York and there's nothing on the aisles. You got like one brand of ice cream in the shelves. There's the candy bars nobody ever buys over on this side. So when you've got a Butterfinger sitting there on the shelf, whether you like the Butterfinger or not, you're going to have to scoop it up. And Earl at this point being, he's not going to cost a lot. A great talented guy still out there. I know he's not a top end safety anymore, but even when he's a top 15 free safety and giving us a little bit more depth on this team to again, buttress up against an injury situation, then if you can't do better than getting a Clay Matthews, if you go and grab an Earl, I'm not going to hate that move. I'm not going to hate a move like that going and up. You're upgrading the talent of your position at your team at that point with that kind of move at this time of year. I can get behind that kind of move. And again, keep in mind, folks, we don't have the draft capital of last few years. You're down a first round pick. You're down a third round pick. So you don't have all that draft capital. Go out there and make some trade, some dreamlike trade out there for somebody. Team 12 says Wilson for MVP. I'm with it, Team 12s. I'm with it 100%. He's the early front runner for MVP right now. If he keeps playing like this, he's going to force them to make him a unanimous one. Say nothing of never getting an MVP vote. He'll force them to make it unanimous. I mean, he's dropping some just incredible throws out there on that football field. Boom Shakalaka says voters going to give the Bill quarterback the MVP just because. That was it. Josh Allen gets the quarterback. Seriously, wouldn't that be just the ultimate slap in the face? Spider Rico, was Olsen trying to throw the game for Cam? I know that's what I was sort of thinking after that first tip. Like, oh, doing your old buddy a solid one on that one, huh? It was just such an odd drop. It's right there in your hands, in your face. It's Russell put it right in the spot and just went bop right up. There's a little bit of part of me, and I'm not to this point yet on Olsen, so don't take this. Look, he's got juice in his legs. He's still got a little bit of that explosion you can see off the snap. So I'm not saying the guy's got a fork in him. But there is a proud part of you wonder, all those old players always got that point where they'll say, when was the moment you knew the game had just passed you by, when you just got a little too old? I hope he's not there. I don't think he's there. I think he's still got some quality snaps to provide on this football team, but it's not been all great for Olsen so far. Anthony Jackson says, do you think that last throw to Lockett was pass interference? I don't. I think you got to let the players play in that moment. I don't want an official to be officiating at that point. It was probably close, but from my standpoint, I don't know that it was a catchable ball. That would probably be the thing that would end up making me go to no, is I think it was a little bit overthrown on that play. Nathaniel Park says, who cares about MVP if we get that Super Bowl ring? I agree, man. If we get a Super Bowl ring and Russell never gets an MVP, but we get Super Bowl rings, multiples, I got no problem with that. No problem with that. You're right. That's what truly does matter. Aiden Reynolds says we need to get Geno Atkins right now or Ryan Kerrigan. Well, those are two great suggestions, Aiden. Geno Atkins, of course, is a 3-tech defensive tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals, and Ryan Kerrigan would be your edge rusher. Both of those guys would probably give you something better than what you're getting right now from those same positions as far as a pass rush goes. So great suggestions. They would be better. They would be improvements. And again, Aiden, they'd fit into that realm of what I'm talking about, where it's got to be a 4th rounder or above that you're really willing to give as draft compensation. John Schneider's not going to give up a 2nd-round pick at this point this year. Rick Cepeda says too many holding calls by Snell and Lewis on defense. No pass rush. Well, Rick, you're right. I think with Snell, I'm going to have a little more patience with Lewis. He's a rookie who's playing with no preseason games, being kind of thrown right into the fire. So, there's going to be some games this season he does struggle. If he can give me the benefit of being a good run blocker, basically an upgrade as a run blocker over what you had in DJ Fluker last year, I'm going to be happy with his performance overall. And I was overall today in the first couple of weeks happy with his performance. Now, Snell, look, I know folks wanted to see an upgrade over Ifedi, but we're just going to have to maybe wait a little bit of time for that. The guy might be a marginal upgrade over him, but he's got a lot of the same kind of characteristics that Ifedi had. Slow with his feet. It's going to make him struggle in pass rush at times. The penalty problem wasn't an issue for him on the Jets, but that reared its head a little bit today, didn't it? So I'd love to give you an upgrade there, or not upgrade. I'd love to give you good outlook on Schnell. I don't think we're going to get there on it, though. I think he kind of is what he is, and maybe he can get a little bit better, but it's just kind of is what it is on that one. All right, hold on. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind here. We're catching back up, though. Oh, we had somebody blow the chat up, huh? God, I'm way behind on my chat. I'm sorry, folks. I'll try to get through these a little bit quicker. Here we go. Anthony Abib says, I can't believe Seattle covered the spread even though I nearly had a heart attack. I can't believe they did either. Retta McDaniel says, don't forget Rasheem Green didn't play. No Green, Diggs, Blair. Not sure when Green got hurt in Atlanta, but we're missing a big piece of the line. Absence of Diggs and Blair changed how we used Adams. Agree with you, Randall. Absolutely agree with you, man. And I wouldn't forget on him. I don't know that Rasheem's going to give you a lot more pass rush than what you're getting right now. He had 4 sacks last year with a lot of attempts at rushing the passer. And so maybe he can give you that. Boom Shakalaka, thoughts on Dan Quinn? If he gets fired, he becomes defensive coach and Ken Norton back to linebacker coach. I would be okay with that. Or at least bring him in as the defensive line coach for this year, or as defensive line consult. That's his bread and butter, as a defensive line coach. He teaches hand usage really well. Get him in for that instantaneously if Atlanta kicks him out. And it does look like he's going to sadly probably get fired. That onside kick is going to reflect on him at the end of the day and allowing them to get back into it. Just a tough look for Quinn. But yes, please, Boom Shakalaka, bring him back into the fold. Hillel says, so happy we played both my two teams 2 games. I won't have a heart attack, hopefully. Don't count on it, man. You never know with this team. So keep taking aspirin, healthy diet. Very Hairy Larry, what's up, Very Hairy Larry? The Hawks, Jennings, how you doing? D-Mac with the fire. The Hawks, Jennings says, we are in for an undefeated Super Bowl season. You just watch. I'm good with that. Imagine if we went undefeated with this defensive line, this pass rush. I don't know what the league would know what to think. Spider Rico, Carson goes hard on every play. Carson's going for that contract, Spider. He wants to get paid. He's looking to get paid. And he needs to get through this season healthy if he wants to. Rap highlights. How you doing? Go Pats, Rap highlights. Well, you guys, you played a fantastic game. Rap highlights. I don't know if we got lucky, but you guys played us real close. You guys are undermanned there with the COVID situation and how you're kind of rolling it. And man, you guys are a tough out. There's no two ways about it. So I'm glad we don't have to play you twice a year. I'm glad we don't have to face Belichick twice a year. You guys are, I think you're going to be in good shape in the future. You got a lot of cap space. You got I think you got a couple extra picks coming into this next draft. You probably won't get there for the Fields or Lawrence area of things and getting that guy, but who knows? Maybe Cam's a long-term solution there for you. He played really good for you. M. Vaughn, I hope the Hawks win the Super Bowl. M. Vaughn, I do too. I really, really do. We'll see how it goes. But if Russell plays like this, he's going to be tough to stop. Now the defense got to get a little bit better, but you got an MVP going like that. It's like, good luck. Jeff Rhines, obviously we lost Diggs, which was a huge bummer, but was I the only one that saw that with him missing the back third, didn't seem solid and lost getting set up? I don't know on that. I didn't get a chance to see much on Diggs in the back third. It seemed like he was the ejection was pretty quick, but I think he's better when we're in there. I think he's a good free safety for us. Jose Rodriguez says, all glory to God for this win. All glory to God indeed, Jose. Jeff Ryan says, thank goodness for the Dunbar pick, though. Dunbar was great pick, great timing, and we needed it. And this team has not generated a lot of turnovers or interceptions early on here. Guy jumped the route. Wasn't a luck interception, wasn't a tip ball. He jumped it. And hopefully one of many to come, Jeff. We need it. The defense needs it. There's one thing you could hang your hat on last year is we weren't good at causing sacks. We weren't good at stopping the run. We weren't good on third down. We weren't good against explosive plays. Bop, 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 bop. Nope, kitty. Sorry, nope. But the one thing we could do last year really well was turn over the ball. Top 5 last year in turnovers. So if you can do that, maybe that can be a kind of an equalizer for you on the defensive side of the ball. Nathaniel Park says, if we don't promote Shaq Griffin off the practice squad, I'm going to wonder what's going on in that front office. I will too. I don't get the fact that you don't have Shaq rushing the passer in these first 2 games. Look, the guy's not going to be a Pro Bowler as a pass rusher, but he gave you almost a 10% pass rush win rate on this team last year in the 15 to 20 snaps you brought him out there. I don't remember him getting gashed on his side in the running game because you're bringing him in at times just in pass rush situations. So when you look at this line right now, we have nobody, I'm sure, that's even at probably 6% as a pass rush win rate right now. I would be surprised if we got a guy who's past 3%. So why isn't he up here? I don't know either. I don't. AB says, guys, DK had a son today. His name is Stephon Gilmore. DK, 92 yards, 1 touchdown. He gave it to him. AB. There's no doubt about it, man. He is no way Stephon looks at that and goes, yeah, it was like about a 50-50 thing. We each got our whacks. Like he took it to you today. There's not going to be a second Defensive Player of the Year trophy for Stephon this year. Randall McDaniel says, Russ, first touchdown to Tyler, won't get the talk like his others, but the way he smoked it over the middle shows how aggressive he's playing. Wasn't a safe throw, and he had that ball humming. It's a great point, Randall. That first throw by Russell is him committing the Cardinals to a quarterback. Do not throw back across your body late in a play back into the middle of the field. Never do that. Never do that. But when you got his skill set, when you have his baseball background with his ability to throw off platform, you can do it. He can do it. It's a fan, but you're right. Fantastic throw. Yep, AB, Stephon Gilmore was the Defensive Player of the Year last year. Absolutely. Ryan Amaral, I think if the game wasn't on Sunday night, it wouldn't have been an ejection. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that where they're like, this is on national audience, this kind of hit we've got to make an example of. It was so arbitrary, and I've seen hits like that didn't get guys ejected in football games, even after the rule change. So, please don't suspend him for another game, NFL. That'd be ridiculous. AB says Shaq Griffin had a pretty good game in my opinion. Jamal had a good game. Bobby did as well. Dunbar got a pick. Can't agree with you on Shaq Griffin. I think he's had a pretty rough start to the year so far. He hasn't done a lot to me that's made me want to say I need to go out and pay this guy $10 million a year. Just what I'm seeing. Boom Shakalaka status on Blair. We don't know. It's going to be an MRI needed. It takes about a day for that. So you got to wait a little while, but I would expect you're probably going to see a torn ACL after we get back the results of that. Ryan Amaral says Shaq had a good night, but got a little sloppy late with Harry. I think he did all right, Ryan. The one thing is he wasn't targeted as much. They were really going after Dunbar early on, and then they were attacking the middle of the football field. But I didn't see him making a lot of plays. And frankly, if you want to look at the Diggs hit, and one thing that would have prevented the whole Diggs hit from happening is if you look at Shaq on that play, if he reads the in route there and actually makes a play on that ball rather than just sticking to it, he's a real assignment-specific, assignment-correct guy. So pre-snap on that Diggs hit, he's aligned up to where he's got to take the shallow route here on the edge, and then he's got the deep half. That's his responsibility. But if he jumps the route early enough when the guy makes the turn in, he can knock that ball away. We saw him do it last week in the Atlanta Falcon game. He just doesn't do it very often. And you saw that on that play with the Diggs hit where he's late to react to the guy cutting in because he's so assignment corrective. I don't know if I can make that jump on that play. I got to worry about this flat route. I got to worry about the deep zone. It's again part of why I'm not super down on Shaq. I don't sometimes get as much how he gets as much love as he does when he just plays so averagely. Jamal had 2 sacks here at AB. I'm going to go through a little bit on these comments, man, because we got to make sure I'm getting everybody. And I do hope we do trade for Kerrigan. Wouldn't be a bad target. And it may be that you don't have a lot of options to trade for. If they were to trade for Kerrigan and bring in Clay Matthews, I wouldn't be opposed to that either. You need to upgrade this situation here. It's going to be really hard to win a Super Bowl if you don't have the type of pass rush we need to be able to get this going. You can't have no pass rush, which is pretty much where it's at. B. Russ, Bruce Irvin has a sprained knee. Carroll made it seem like he's done for the year. Yeah, Blair's done. I think you guys are really holding out hope if you don't think that he's probably got the torn ACL. That was just how they look when they happen, as brutal as they look. Boom Shakalaka says Ugo never played last year, though. He did play a little bit last year at the beginning of the season, and then he played a little bit the last of the year. He got beat up in the Green Bay game on that from the slot, though it was with Devontae Adams lined up in the slot, so it's hard to blame him on that one. But in the first game, he had a little bit of a rough game in the first game as well. He wasn't great in that one either. AB says Irvin is out for a week probably. It's a 2 to 4 weeker thing. So sprained knee means usually like sprained knee is usually torn MCL is what that is, where you can run on the MCL, but it's going to heal by itself, but it takes a little bit of time, I think. I'm not a doctor on that one, but he's going to be out for a little bit of time. Team 12 says we should have signed Clowney. You know what I think on that, Team 12s. You know what I think on that. The Christ MC 76, we need a better D-line. We need some staunch upgrades there, Christ MC. We need some. It's not a matter of just, we'll just make do. Well, maybe it'll develop. Maybe we can trust the young guys. You want to win a Super Bowl. If this team wants to win a Super Bowl this year, they've got to get guys that are not pie-in-the-sky hopes, but certainties. I'm not talking 15 sack a year guy. I'm just talking, give me a guy that's in that 8 sack range that can give me some pressure. Mayo is not getting you any pressure. Irvin wasn't getting you any pressure. Tanner Stone, welcome on in. Go Hawks. AB says, I would expect us to sign Snacks Harrison, sign Clay, and trade for Kerrigan. Could be, man. Could be, but they know they need to do a couple things. They can't just stand pat with one move here. A few things need to happen ASAP. Dowboy. I hope I pronounced that right. What's up, Dowboy? Thank you for the $4.99 donation, the $5 donation. Wilson had a great game, man. Lights out. Our defense is better. Our defense is definitely better, but there is stuff to fix. Let's do a collaboration. Sure, man. Well, once I get my new computer up, I'm open to doing a collab. Let me know what you have in mind. Hit me up on Twitter and message you, man. And I'm potentially open to it. Once we get the new computer too, I'm going to be having a lot more ability to do the dual live stream stuff and all that. But thank you so much for the $5 donation, Dowboy. Please do, everybody, hit that like button if you are in the chat. Subscribe if you're not already. Please subscribe. It's very much appreciated. And, it doesn't cost you anything. Jonathan De La Cruz. Do you think we should sign Clay Matthews? 100%. We should be on the phone with his agent right now. Right now. Get him in here. Whatever he can provide, whatever. Get him in here. Dowboy, I think you have too. Our defense is definitely better, but there's stuff to fix. We'll send a great game. Like our defense, I think you have too. Sorry, Dowboy, I don't know what you mean on that second thing. Let me know what you mean on that. I agree with you what you said. Defense has got a lot to fix, though, man. It's not just a little bit. It's going to be a lot to fix. Yeah, there's a lot to fix. I mean, it all really does end in be. You are stopping the run well, so we've got to give them that. They can hang their hat on stopping the run, but are they stopping the run, or are teams just having so much success in passing that they're moving away from the run? That's the one thing I would wonder about that. What's up, the toast? AB sign Clay Matthews, Damian Harris. Now I like it, AB. Randall McDaniel, what's up with Gordon? We're still waiting for the commissioner to pull him off the exemptions list. It's up to them. It's arbitrary. There's no certainty on the suspension timeline. So the commissioner's got to come up and say, okay, you've done the time. Put down the little pick that you're knocking the rock with. Let's unclasp your chain and put you on the football field. So I would expect it to be relatively soon. I had heard the rumor was after week 2. So maybe this week we hear about it. That was the original rumor a couple weeks ago. Jonathan De La Cruz says, if we sign Clay Matthews, we get someone who can rush the pass, but also cost us 30 yards in penalties every game. Well, maybe, man. I don't know. At this point, I might almost take a couple penalties a game for a guy that's at least going to get me a sack or two a game. The thing with Clay Matthews, look at him last year, played 13 games, got 8.5 sacks, I think. Yes, he had a lot of help around him. Michael Brockers, Aaron Donald, I don't know if Dante Fowler, I think, was still there last year. They did have a lot of pass rush around him. He got to a lot of one-on-one situations, but he was efficient, and he had a broken jaw for a lot of the year and still got that production. I don't know that we have anybody right now as a pass rusher that's better than him. And if that's the case, I think you have to go out there and then sign him. I mean, it gets real simple really quick on this one. Our pass rush is miserable. There's a guy in the market who would upgrade your pass rush. He's not going to be a long-term investment. It's for this year. Sign him. AB says the NFL is gay. They're trying to sabotage us. It seems sabotage-like, and it felt like that in the first half. I get why somebody might think that. I don't agree totally. I think it was just calls just didn't go in our favor, but I get where you're coming from. Y2K says, I want to point out that the run and the pass, I want to point out that in the run and the pass, when Jamarco Jones went in there for like 5 plays, he held up really well. Yeah, he did, Y2K. One thing I was wondering with Brandon Shell when he came in here, I knew that they paid him, so they were going to probably start him. But one thing I'd wondered was the guy, Jamarco Jones, who's been here for a few years, really comfortable with the system and the players around him, if he wouldn't be maybe even better than what Brandon Shell is. Sadly, this comes down to my old theory of when they look at the offensive line, they're always going to favor the run blockers first over the pass protectors. So you're going to get the Brandon Shell, who's the people mover, over Jamarco Jones, who's probably more of the pass protector. What's up, D-Boy? No worries, man. Better late than never. Better late than never. D-Boy, I am in Hawaii. I made it to Maui, so I'm on the island in the middle of the Pacific. Jonathan De La Cruz, Gordon is on the suspension list right now. So it's still the suspensions carried over from last year. He is signed to the team, but he doesn't come off suspension until the commissioner decides it's been enough time with his face stuck in the corner wearing the dunce hat. Y2K, I love the 3rd and 1 call. Effing go for it. The easiest way to get big yards is on 2nd and 1 and 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1. Being non-aggressive is how you lose. Couldn't say it better myself, Y2K. It's kind of what I've been saying to a couple folks here who are really kind of upset about the call. I don't mind if you got as a team, you're going for it, you're being aggressive. When you're going for it and being aggressive, I'm good with that. Because I've watched too often over my years of football when coaches get into the safe zone. We're going to be safe. We're going to protect. We're going to drop our coverage deep. We're going to cover 2, and they'll just drop those safeties back and give up those 15-yard plays right up the middle. Just don't give up the big play. And it doesn't work over and over and over and over again. So hey, being aggressive might not work either, but there's also a higher potential chance of it working for the reasons that you provided there, Y2K, being that, again, those third and shorts, second and shorts, those defenses are coming up. They're thinking the run's going to come. So be smarter than them schematically. Hit them with something they're not expecting. That's how you outcoach the other coaches. Y2K, you drunk? Well, drunk in happiness, I hope. Boom shakalaka, sorry, it's Hawaiian Pidgin. I don't mind. I can speak a little Pidgin. I know a little Pidgin, bro. I ain't good, but I can't speak it, but I can, I know, pay attention to him, man. Yeah. D-Boy, how'd you feel about Jamal Adams' play today? He was solid today, D-Boy. Solid. Not spectacular like last week necessarily. He had a couple of errors, but they were also having to have him fill in a little bit for the slot situation. So Blair's probably done as well, D-Boy. Unfortunately, I think that ACL is a torn. Cowboy, I thought it was good, man. I had 10 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 1 sack. That is good, Cowboy. Dang. Hella good. Y2K, game 1 and D learned to trust our D in a mega game time. Game 2, offense learned to trust D in game time. Super Bowl team, both sides have to trust each other. Total Pete Carroll came. Sounds good, Y2K. I mean, the defense was a little rough out there. I mean, they were holding on for dear life is the best way I could describe it at times, where you're just like, man, it's holding on. It started out good. They were hitting guys, but it seemed like certainly after the ejection, after the ejection to Diggs, and then right after that, you got the injury to Blair. It seemed to kind of deflate them just a little bit. Hopefully they can kind of keep rounding it out though. AB and Jamal played well, 1 sack, 10 tackles, surpassed defense. He got beaten by Edelman, but that's why we have Diggs there. Yeah, he got beat by Edelman on that play. He was playing, as they talked about in the telecast, he's playing the short route, and Edelman went deep on him. Sometimes it happens. Certainly Adams was not the problem out there today. There were other issues that were much bigger that were the reason we were where we were. Robin, how you doing, Robin? Still, go with Carson or Hyde or roll Russell out and eat it if necessary. Save New England a timeout. Yeah, but I mean, I think that when it came down to it at the end of the day, New England didn't win this game because they had the extra timeout. I feel like New England was going to get down that field one way or another, it seemed like, no matter what then. And again, I get where people are coming from and saying, look, run up Carson, run up Hyde. But it's again, understanding the fact that New England's going to be primed to stop that run. Yeah, you got some physical runners. Yeah, you have a run blocking first offensive line. So I can hear people that are saying that, and I can nod my head and go, yeah, you have a point. But man, I do like it when we're being aggressive. I like it when we're just letting it all hang out and going for it. It's hard to be angry about that. Scott Kovacs, did this become close because of an injured defense, or would this have been down to the wire regardless? No, if you've got one of your 2 safeties in this game, Blair or Diggs, I think it's a little bit different as far as that back half goes. I do. I think they still are able at times to move the ball. I think teams are going to move the ball on us throughout this year because the defensive line is just kind of that bad as far as the pass rush goes. And it's a passing league now. But with that said, it definitely impacted losing those 2 guys. That hurt. That was a little painful, Scott. And I think it was just a little too much at that point when you're trotting out Lano Hill at the free safety position, says, he's more of a strong safety. It just, now what it makes you do defensively is go into more of the cover 2 look rather than the single high safety look that you want to normally run with. So you're changing things around schematically, and then you get into cover 2. Now we're talking about, and there's no pressures. You can't blitz as much because you don't want to go to the single high stuff as much. It definitely affected things as far as from a strategy standpoint. Fat Daddy Stacks. Wow, what a game. We're starting off the Heart Attack Hawks this year, man. They began. We all thought we were getting a free ride with that first win of the year. It's like, oh, nice, easy, comfortable win. It's good. Opening week, 10 a.m. game, no problem. Not this week. Not moving forward. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot more like this. Randall McDaniel says, can we get the defensive end OLB from the Chargers? Can't recall his name. Or did they just re-up him? Not Bosa. No, you're talking about Melvin Ingram, Randall. And yes, he is available. I have to see what he's done this year. Watching the game a little bit today with Kansas City and him, I didn't see him do much on the football field. I do wonder if maybe he's a little bit at this point kind of done. But he would be an option if the Chargers were willing to move. I thought Justin Herbert looked really good today, by the way. He played fearless. Absolutely fearless. Daniel W. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more Will Disley after the past 2 Greg Olsen games. Disley should be in good stride off injury, and Olsen wouldn't be phased out. He should be moved to number 2 tight end. Thoughts? Yeah, I'd be okay with that, Daniel. Disley's looked solid on the couple little times he's been asked to catch. Solid blocking, just a lot like we saw last year. And certainly they've got Olsen in there now as the starter. I don't mind waiting a little bit, Daniel, just because coming off the two years with Disley, I almost wouldn't. If I'm going to put him in as a starter, I'm going to want to put him in as a starter around maybe 6, 7, week 8-ish, because then I'm only going to put 8 games on that body. I want him healthy by the playoffs. That's really where I want Disley. And so if I've got to maybe use Greg a little bit now to get his legs back to fully being under him, I'm not against that. I'm not out on Greg totally yet, Daniel. I think he may still have a little bit left, because when I see him run, I feel like he still has his legs run-wise. But it is a little disconcerting on some of this mental errors, the drops. You're going, okay, come on, Greg. You're supposed to be the solid, steady guy here right now in this offense with your signing. It's $7 million we're paying for you this year. You know. The Toast says, wow, I am the only one awake. You are not the only one awake. We got a bunch of people here awake, man. We're hyped. Everyone gets hyped with the victory. No one go to sleep. Super Bowl dreams dancing in their head. Jorge Gomez, GG to the Seahawks. Thank you, Jorge. You guys played a fantastic game. You got a great team. You know, you're kind of having to wait a year here to rebuild with Brady going out and reschedule and remove things around. But man, Cam looks so good for you guys. So it's you're going to be a tough out for everybody this year, and I don't expect you guys to be down for long. I expect you guys to be right back in the thick of it in no time at all. So it's still a very well-run organization over there. D-Boy, the Cowgirls won by 1 point today. Do they come to Seattle confident and motivated because they won by a point, or is it just the Cowgirls and we blow them out? How do you feel about next week? Yeah, I think that they're going to feel a little bit better than they would have if they lost. I don't think that you're going to get the trapped animal in a corner mentality next week if they lose this last week. I think you get now a different happier team, a team that would have been really under a lot of pressure probably if they're looking to go 0-3 to start the season at that point. So they're going to feel good, and offensively they seem to be cooking pretty good. That opening week I thought Dak played pretty solidly. The passing offense is right there like we thought they would be with the CeeDee Lamb, the Gallup, and Amari Cooper. So they're going to be able to hit us, and I think it's going to be Dak's going to throw for probably over 300 yards in that game. You know, the key comes down to, again, can they fit to the script, which is turn Dallas into a one-dimensional attack, shut down Elliott, cause them to just turn into a throw, pass-happy team. If they can do that, it seems like that's worked as a general rule of thumb here in the first couple of weeks. It doesn't seem sustainable to give up the nearly 350 yards passing, but they've made it work, and they have stopped the running game. That's the one thing the defense can hang its hat on. Sheikh Livonian. What's up, Sheikh Livonian? How you doing? So I do have the Seahawks winning that game, D-Boy, by just a couple points, but it's going to be a shootout, like 41-38. I'm expecting a big-time shootout. AB says, Cowgirls are bad. Their secondary is horrendous. If Russ torched the defensive player of the year, he is for sure dropping 7 TDs on the Cowboys. And he might just have to do it, AB, because the defense might give up 6 TDs. So I agree with you. He should be able to carve up that secondary nice, like a Thanksgiving turkey. But, you know, again, is the defense going to be able to stop Dak in that passing attack? Y2K says, I don't want to say our D-line, our O-line did great, but they did well above league average today. A few times today, Russ reverted today. In general, can you see how much he's improved on easy, short, and third and check downs? Yes. I mean, it's a thing I've said before. Russell 5-6 years ago I made this kind of the observation that I felt like pre-snap, he's one of the worst in the leagues. And then post-snap, he was the best player in the league. And over the time, he's gotten better and better. Schottenheimer coming along has helped him continue to improve that pre-snap element of his game. And by saying he was one of the worst pre-snap, it's to say not aware of where the pass rush is always coming from, not aware that he needs to go to his hot route on a given play. Too stuck in that mold of I'm going to hold the ball for a little extra time when I just have one guy coming in unblocked. He's gotten a lot better about that aspect of his game. It continues to improve. And absolutely the short check downs and specifically getting it to his running backs. This is a part of Russell's game that's starting to expand. This is a thing that's not even up until last year was really as much a part of his game. So if he can bring that in, it's one of the holes in his game. It's one of the things that's prevented him from getting even more out of who he was already. It's going to just make him that much more if he can implement throwing to the running backs out of the backfield and not allowing that defense to just always drop into their big, deep zone. Oh, shit. It's my connection went weird here. Hopefully I didn't lose you guys. I am in Hawaii, man. I am in Hawaii, indeed. And Reed, is he injured? I don't think he's injured, just inactive. So they could bring him in if they wanted to, but they liked where their corner situation was. Noah Hernandez says, thoughts on Metcalf tonight? When I'd say, Noah, prior to this live stream, that he is on a Hall of Fame trajectory, it's because of these kind of games. Hall of Famers are the kind of players at receiver who can go against a number one cornerback, a defensive player of the year last year, and just absolutely give it to him in every single way. Now, did he absolutely dominate Stephon? No, but he got very much the better of him. He was the better player. He didn't just one-trick pony him with the deep ball. He was hitting him on a couple different routes. He was showing just more expanded abilities. It's just the subtle thing. I go back to, again, that slant where he gets up at the top of the route, right at the stem. Gilmore's there, and Gilmore's going to try to be a little physical with him at that point to kind of throw off him some of his momentum. DK just throws a slap at the arm, throws the arm off of him, such a subtle move, but it creates that separation right there. And because he's initiating the contact, being Gilmore, it's not going to be a call as an offensive pass interference or anything else. It's just considered hand fighting at that point. And then he breaks right open at that, creating the separation against Gilmore. Fantastic performance by DK. He didn't get a ton of targets tonight, but again, the guy's going to be on a Hall of Fame trek. He could even start to etch into that area of where I've said he's going to be the next Julio Jones, but maybe he is that next Calvin Johnson, which is even that next step above that guy that's pushing into that realm of, can he push for a 2,000-yard season in his prime? Can he get there? I mean, it maybe needs to be a question we start to ask ourselves as we're seeing this ascent. Boom Shakalaka says, Ursula cuttable now with Swain. Yeah, I think Ursula remains on the practice squad, and he's your backup slot receiver if something weird happens. That's pretty much the way it goes, I think. Carl Nerney says, yo, what's up, Brandon? How about that dub? LJ is killing it, laughing my ass off. Yeah. And you're having fun with me, of course, Carl, with the LJ Collier. It's a great win, man. It put me on the edge of my seat right there at the end. I was just sweating bullets, but great victory by the team. Awesome win. Love the goal line stand. How can you not like a goal line stand? And this is just the way the team does it, man. It's just how they do what they do. Mr. Nubify, just saying though, DK grabbing dude man by the throat on the sideline was scary. Why would you ever pick any kind of fight with DK, even if you are Gilmore? Well, I think it was just, he was getting his butt handed to him out there so bad, Mr. Nubify. If you watch on the play it happen where it kind of all broke down, DK was blocking him so bad that the running back's coming at Stephon Gilmore, and Gilmore's is being blocked backwards. So it's not DK's blocking here and forcing him down the field. It's Gilmore's turned backwards, and DK's still pressing him back up the field past the running back. It had to be kind of embarrassing look, and it was at that point where you'd seen him throughout the game kind of be real physical with Stephon, and it's where he can bully guys. I mean, he's that much bigger. He should be able to do it, and I think by that point, Gilmore was just trying to salvage a little bit of pride and show that he wasn't just going to be made a little bitch, and just give him a little something. Fat Daddy Stacks also, how about Freddie Swain? Yeah, let's not get too far on Freddie. It was a great route, nice crosser. It was more about the play design than it was about Freddie Swain running a magnificent route. But he did his part on that, turned on the jets, showed that 4.4 speed he's got, and a great job by the Rook. Y2K says Amadi had a great game once Blair went out. He made plays in both the blitz and coverage. His tackling is good. He's an instinctive player, Y2K. I have my worries with Amadi in coverage. I think he got beat a couple times in coverage. It's the spot of his game that I think could be the problem with him when you get him out on the football field. But he was active, and he was ready to go in there. He didn't look completely lost. We're going to need him, it looks like. Stacks, that was an amazing catch by him. Random McDaniel says, Disley's lack of production just a number game, or is he struggling to get back? What I mean from the numbers game is there are only so many balls to go around. I think that there's some stuff going on here with the coaches where what they're doing is attempting to try to protect against some of the injury situation that happened last year. You saw this in the moves this offseason and building for depth and widening out that roster in spots so they could really kind of protect themselves against that injury situation if it came up again. And I think with some of these guys that have been injured in the past, they're going to try to limit some of their stuff early on, some of the bang and the wear and tear in order to have them available later on. Guy like Disley, I think it fits in that category. You see this with Chris Carson, where they tried to look like at times to me really balance in Carlos Hyde and Travis Homer to offset what they've done prior, like last year, where you had, I think, Carson at like 300 carries after, or 300 touches after like week 9 or 10 of last year. That's just way too much. You need just kind of low balance just a little bit. D-Boy says, bring Clay in. We need him. Absolutely, we do. And he would be a great option, I think, D-Boy. I think it's a move that's probably coming too, frankly. Y2K says, Puna Ford did make some plays. Reed is mode issue than Ford. Oh, Reed is more of an issue than Ford. Reed's doing okay. Reed just kind of is what he is. He had, folks, 1 year as an outlier where he had 10.5 sacks. And I think it got everybody thinking that that's the kind of player he was. It's just not the player he really is. He's a good overall, all-around defensive tackle. He can give you some pass rush. He can be solid in stopping in the run. He's not a star. Just kind of is what he is on that. Carl Nearly says, Brooks coming off the edge, laughing my ass off. Yeah, well, they're bringing Brooks off the edge because they didn't have anything left. There's nobody else to call up at that point, so they had to do it. D-Nugget says, I think tight ends will be more into it in future games. Could be. I mean, I would have maybe thought you would have used him more in like a game like this where the Patriots are so good at cornerback, but you were still attacking at the receiver position. So it seems like Seattle's favoring early on, at least attacking more the wide receiver positions, especially targeting Lockett and DK a good amount, trying to get them 5 to 8 targets a game. It seems like each a piece. But I agree. Y2K Puna Ford played really good. He's been solid this year, just like what we need. I mean, a solid one tech, doesn't get moved off the ball, can split a double team, chase a play down from time to time. That's just what he gives you. What up, D-Mac? D-Nugget, when can we get back to the game? I'm buying tickets to all games. Wilson and Russell era is a special time. It definitely is. It definitely is. Yeah, get into watching while you can, while he's in his prime. You're going to watch a once-in-a-lifetime quarterback at this point with getting in there. Fat Daddy Stack says Diggs was going high because the receiver had his low. Yeah, it was a bang play on that hit. I don't know how you can eject a guy like that on that kind of play. I get why it's helmet to helmet. I know why it's a penalty. The ejection seems just a little bit too much. Randall mentions Clowney has 0 sacks through the first 2 games of the Tennessee Titans, and he is correct, though I will point to you, Randall, that I believe he has 3 or 4 quarterback pressures, which would be leading this team. So while he hasn't had a lot of pressures as of yet with the Titans, he also, I still think we're a better team with Clowney on this field right now. 60C. Why is everyone making such a big deal out of this? What are we making a big deal out of 60C? Can you expand? Iridescence, do you think we can get Melvin Gordon in a trade? Melvin Ingram, I think, is who you're thinking of. Iridescence. It's possible. It's possible. Certainly the San Diego Chargers, if they thought they were going to be in it this year in that division, and maybe they love what they saw from Justin Herbert this week, but they've had a couple of injuries, and you got to wonder if maybe they're in that mode of thinking this division's really hard. We're probably not going to compete in it. Maybe they're willing to move on from him. So he's a target, and not a certainty, but definitely a target out there. Y2 Cases on the waterfront is better than Apocalypse Now. If you haven't seen both, you're a failure as an old person, aka boomer. I joke, of course. I have seen both, so I am not a failure. Apocalypse Now is more of an experience more than it's a movie for me. It's not really even a movie. It's just it's an experience. No, bro. Why Melvin Gordon? Laughing out loud. I think he meant Melvin Ingram. Y2K says Earl was the top-rated pass coverage safety last year. Yeah, and I think he'd be just fine. People knock him and say, well, he's not this, he's not that anymore. He's not a top 5 safety. Well, again, too, he went to a team in Baltimore that runs a scheme that's almost completely the opposite from what Seattle runs. And he went from a very simplified scheme where he knows exactly what he needed to do into Baltimore's multifaceted, all over the place type defense that wants to blitz from every angle. So it's tough for an older player to pick up a kind of new defense like that out of the fly. I think he would be much better suited to be placed within our scheme. D-Boy says, what happened to E.T. going to the Cowboys? Well, I think the Cowboys are really looking at their salary cap situation, and they're having to be very careful with it as they move forward. They have to be very, very careful with it. I don't know if they have the money to go after E.T. No, bro. Seahawks are going to trade Hollister for a pass rusher. It'd sure be great, no, bro, if you could somehow package Hollister and Penny and then go get a decent pass rusher from that. That'd be awesome if you could do something like that. I don't know if they can, but then be great if they could. Yeah, D-Boy, nothing yet on the Cowboys. I think if it was going to happen, I would have thought it would have happened immediately, D-Boy. The fact the Cowboys have kind of waited on the Earl Thomas move makes me wonder if it will happen necessarily. I mean, maybe, but they've been kind of sitting back. So they've not showed an aggressiveness on that deal at all. They need some help, though. Cowboys secondary certainly needs it. Boom Shakalaka says, if they got Earl, who's in the slot? Adams, Diggs, or Earl? I would like to think that maybe what you could do is put Earl back at free safety and then move Diggs up at slot, because Diggs did play slot with the Detroit Lions early on in his career. I don't know how if he's going to be good in that role. I don't know how successful he was in that role prior, because of course we've just had him at free safety, but it seems like maybe the best possible option if we're talking about trying to deal with that slot role and who gives you the best out there, because I just don't want to put Adams in at the slot. I think you're moving him off where he could be better suited for you with this team. Fat Daddy Stack says trading Hollister for a pass rush is not a bad idea. Yep, just the key with that is you have to find somebody who's willing to take Hollister and finds value in him. Is there a team out there that would be willing to have him packaged in? It certainly doesn't make a lot of sense to be carrying the $3.2 million salary you are on Hollister right now as he sits on the bench and collects dust. King Digital HD says, Rams or Seahawks, who looks better? Well, Rams do look very good so far. I can't argue that. They look really, really good. I'm going to go with Seahawks King Digital, but I got to own the fact it's probably just because of its homerism, and I just can't imagine the Rams, with the talent they lost through this year, I don't think that they're going to have the depth they've had over recent years. And once they do start getting a couple of injuries, I think there's going to be a very big talent drop off to the backup guys that they have in place right now. So I think our depth's a little bit better. We can sustain some injuries. And I think that would be the difference between those two teams at this point. Maybe the Rams look a little bit better, but I like Seahawks forecast in the long term. Boom Shakalaka says, did Hollister even play? Not that I saw. Y2K, I thought our pass blocking did awesome. We had some mistakes. They blitzed an extra guy a lot, and O-line at least bought time. Maybe not amazing, but they did the job. That's all we need. Couldn't have summed it up better myself, Y2K. They did fine. If the offensive line can block like that in pass protection, we're great. There's a couple times where they got pressure on Russell, but it was really after he kind of held on to the ball for a little too long. I felt like they did really well against New England. That's a tough front to prepare against, because they're going to do so many tricks and run so many games on you. But they held up. They were solid. If they do that, Russell's going to be able to throw for a lot of yardage. So very, very astute. D-Boy says, how do you feel about Griffin? I feel like he's not playing like a top-tier cornerback. He's not playing like he wants that money. Do you feel about his play the last two games? I feel similarly. I don't think we're seeing Griffin's best play. We're seeing a lot of what we saw in the first 2 years out of Shaquille Griffin. It's one of the reasons I said that while there was a lot of people out there begging and pleading that we sign him now before his price goes through the roof, because they saw the Tre'Davious White deal and they saw the Jalen Ramsey deal and they went, oh, God, he's going to just cost that much more if we don't sign him right now. I kept arguing, no, you need to wait on him. You wait. There's reason you need to wait, but we're not certain on the player we've got exactly in Shaquille Griffin as of yet. We know he played one good year in his third year, but his first 2 years weren't so good. We need to know that he's that consistent guy. And to me, he's not a guy right now that I'm paying at $10 million a year. I'm letting this kind of cornerback walk. Our corners in our scheme are very easily replaceable. They really are. That's why we've never spent a first-round pick on a corner in 10 years. It's why we've never put a second-round pick on a corner in 10 years. It's why we've never given any significant money to a free agent cornerback, because it's very easy to replace within the system. You can find guys that will fit, so you don't need to pay the money for them, especially if they're not even barely league average cornerbacks. That's how you bad roster build, by giving average players $10 million a year. Boom Shakalaka, tight end was neglected after first two throws. Yeah, I think Russell saw some holes. I mean, there were some crossers over the middle that were wide open for Russ, and then he took some shots down the field, and there were great shots. He hit them. Colton Young says, yeah, Hollister had a couple of decent blocks. All right, good spot in that, Colton, and I will take your word for it. He's a willing blocker too. And again, I was talking a little bit a few minutes ago about the fact that a lot of what we've done from our roster building standpoint across the board in this last offseason was, rather than building for prime talent on the fronts, getting the prime defensive end, another prime defensive tackle, they built more for the depth. They added more extra kind of guys to build for the potential injuries, and that is what Hollister is. He is sort of an insurance policy if Disley or Olsen does go down, and a pretty good one at that. Sam Dog, the infamous, says, I thought the ejection was BS. I agree, Sam Dog. I don't understand how they looked at that and said that's absolute targeting. He's got to go. It seemed like a gross overreaction. Random McDaniel says trade deadline is 10/29, right before week 8. Our bye week is week 6. I think Penny can play week 7. So we have one game to showcase him for a trade for what the hell? Ryan Kerrigan? Or it could be somebody else by that point too, Randall, because let's not forget, we get to week 6, week 7, we're going to have a couple other teams that thought they were contenders that have maybe fallen back. So maybe there's a couple other guys who come out there that we didn't think would be available. There always is. I can't necessarily say for whom right now off the top of my head, but there always seems to be somebody you can go out there and pluck that you didn't think would have been available there, let's say week 1. D-Boy says, how's your cat settling in? They're doing okay. They like looking at all the birds out here in Hawaii that are sitting out. Pushkar, where is Disley? Disley's playing. They're just controlling his snap counts, and I think that's good, Pushkar, because he's got, remember, his first 2 years of his career, about 5-6 games into his career, he's gotten season-ending injuries, serious injuries, and he's coming back from these. So I think limiting his snap counts, kind of keeping him there in protection isn't the worst thing. And I think he'll come along, and I think he will be more and more of a factor as the year goes along. Video Maker says our run D is good so far. It is, and it is nice at least to hang our hat on this aspect of the defense. I know I'm giving the pass rush a hard time, and rightfully so, but we do have to look at this and characterize it from the standpoint of last year. The run defense was not good. You know, the only reason that it wasn't looked at and viewed at as more of a problem was just because our pass defense was so bad, teams would leave the running and go to the pass really early because they were, if you're getting 6 yards every play on the running game, but you're getting 14, 15 yards on the passing game every play, you're going to end up throwing the ball a lot more. This year, it's not the case. We are stopping the run. It's not just teams are just throwing on us and they're leaving the run, and they're doing good with that too. So maybe they can hang their hat on that, Video Maker. And again, it does fit in line with how Pete Carroll builds his defense. He wants to stop the run first, and he wants to turn teams into one-dimensional attacks. He feels like even if you're getting a lot of yards and we're bending but not breaking defensively, we'll get the turnover, we'll get the sack, we'll cause some kind of fumble after the play because our guys are going to hit you. So it is within the schematics of how we run this defense. Boom shakalaka, cat in quarantine for a month? Nope. I went through all the paperwork and rabies shots and all that stuff and got them right off the boat. So as soon as I landed, they were in my possession. Raw Vegas Todd, that Swain pick looks pretty good right now. Congrats on your first touchdown, Freddie. Congrats indeed, Freddie Swain. Hopefully it's one of many to come in a Seahawks uniform. Ryan Dallas says Michael Dixon, great underrated performance. Fantastic underrated performance. Another thing we should probably talk about is I speak to schematics. One of the things Carroll does is within playing to the defense first, stop the run, turn you into a one-dimensional attack, limit the big plays. Part of all of that recipe for winning in Pete Carroll's stew is to play fantastic special teams. And not only was Dixon knocking the hell out of the punts, but the kicking game was good. Your return game was good in both the kicking game and the punt return game. Carroll truly looks at that special teams as a third aspect of the football team. We haven't been that way over the last few years. It's gone backwards a bit at times. But today it was. Today it fit to the way he wants this team to be built and to operate. So great point out by you there, Ryan. Michael was at the head of that 64-yarder at that nearing the end of the game when he put it right in the back of the corner, left the guy no real room to return the punt. Just a fantastic kick at a time you really, really needed it. What's up, Chad? Free Freddie Swain. Chad also says the ejection was a bit harsh. Wasn't with the crown, was more face mask, shrugs. I agree. That's, to me, the differentiator to it is that the targeting is really, to me, the crown of the helmet coming in. When the guy's smacking face to face, that right there shows that there's a lack of intent, because no man, if you've ever been on a football field, it hurts when you run face into face when you're both going full speed. It's not a pleasant feeling for the hitting defender either. So I thought for the same reason that made it a little egregious to go to the ejection at that point. A bit much. D-Boy says almost 100 people in here. If we don't hit that like button, please hit that like button. 12, show your love. We got to get that win tonight. We got that win tonight. Yes, please do show that love. You guys help this channel out grow immensely. If you hit that like button, it does the algorithm thing and it shows up on a lot of other people's stuff. So it's really good for me. And if you can subscribe too, come on, subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. I promise I won't do a bunch of clickbait videos. The Boom Shock, what happened to Dustin? I'm in this chat. Dude blew up this chat. Wolfie says, my heart was pounding the last minute of the game. Oh, it was me too, Wolfie. I break out into the sweats. My arm starts getting stiff. You know, I got to start knocking out the arteries a little bit. This team it puts you on the edge of your seat. There's something about this, the way they play football games. It's always been like that going back to when I was in my youth, but there's something about that dynamic with Carroll and Wilson and that little bit of magic that they always have going on that always leads us to these games that are just right down to the end, you know? So I'm with you, Wolfie. You're not the only one. Six pack. Is Lynch playing this season? I haven't seen him. No, I don't think Marshawn Lynch is probably playing six pack this year. In Seattle, with going after Carlos Hyde in the offseason and then drafting DJ Dallas in the 4th round, I think that they've sort of built up their running back core big and thick enough now that even if you get a couple injuries, it's hard pressed to get Marshawn here. But if you do get those injuries, you do go down a couple guys, I'd reckon to believe that he's probably there on the bat phone. They got that bat phone dialed and ready, and anytime they can pick it up and dial it up. FU says Carson should have ran that first down when he slid. It was about 2-minute warning. He just slid. Yeah, the thing I would tell the coaches is a teaching moment there to Carson too, is that Carson, when you slide to the back and you drop back and you give yourself up, they're going to do it where you started the slide as opposed to where you landed if you just fall forward. So fall forward in those situations as well. But yeah, it would have made it a lot easier if he had just gone a little bit more forward there rather than getting down so early there. Especially it hurt too when they say, well, it's still the 2-minute warning anyway, so the clock stop as it is. But it's at least he was smart, trying to do the smart thing. But you got to, if you can't give up with your feet, you got to go forward if you're not a quarterback. Iridescence says 30 people when I joined this chat. Now there are 105. We're coming up, Iridescence. We're coming up. I won't sing. That'll make people leave the chat. Wolfie, is the stream delayed really bad, or is he just reading past the chat? So Wolfie and any new people in the chat, I try to answer all the questions in the chat if I can. This does make it so that everybody gets the interaction, but it also makes me get really far behind on the chat. I try to go through pretty quick, but I want to answer everybody's question or get everybody's thought out. Everybody's got a nice little perspective to kind of give to the show, I feel like. The GOAT 209 says Seahawks got to sign Clay Matthews before the 49ers jump on him. Oh boy, they messed up today on that D-line. Yeah, they do. I don't know if you want to jump on it. I don't know if the Niners would be willing to look at Matthews at this point. Maybe they have to too. But yeah, bring him in. He's the best option available out there. Chad says they did try to run a bit tonight. Looked pretty stout. Yep, Chad, they stopped the run. This isn't one of those things like I was speaking to last year where you'd have teams, let's take like that Cleveland game last year. Browns are running Chubb early on, just at will. We can't stop it. It's like, what are we going to do here? But then they start to fall in love with the pass game. Like, let's start throwing. We're throwing really good too, so let's throw it instead. And then they slowly leave the running game. Well, that's not this year. You stopped. Gurley had a couple runs early in the game, in Falcons game, then you shut it down. This game, throughout, you had it pretty well shut down. Even Newton with some of his design stuff, he really wasn't able to just sit there and gash you like he has been able to do. So it's astute, Chad. It's right. The running defense at least appears to be the one thing you can take your hat and hang it on, which, God, we need something on that defense we can hang it on. And yeah, Chad, activate Shaquem. It's time to activate Shaquem. Absolutely. He gives you the last year 9.3% pass rush win rate. That means in under 2.5 seconds, 9% of the time, he beat his man one-on-one. That's better than anything we're getting from anybody else on this defense right now. Thank you for subscribing, Chad. I really do appreciate it, my guy. Really do appreciate it. FU, we had like 3 or 4 sacks, but Cam was hard to tackle. Yeah, he is. It's a fine point. It's something you get with Cam, man. When that guy's legitimately 6'6", 250, 260, it gets tough. It's hard to bring him down. We've seen it for years. You can have a free run at him, and he's every bit of that 6'6" frame. You know, he plays big. Chad, Mayo and Adams had a sack but got shrugged off. Yeah, that's true. The Adams one was a little brutal because he really did have a chance to come down under control on Cam and not let him just leak back through. That was a tough one to watch, but Cam's done it for years, so hard to drill him for it. I mean, the guy's definitely legitimately done it to a lot of people. And yeah, Chad, Jamarco looks solid to me too. I like him as a potential option at right tackle. If they look at Chanel on the tape and they're seeing a guy who does end up starting to struggle, especially as we start to get up against these better pass rushers as we move forward, I hope that they're very much open and they still keep that competition is king thing at the front of their mind as they have in the past. Because there's a part of me that wonders if Jamarco isn't potentially a little bit of a better player than Chanel. D-Boy, the 49ers are really best beat up with the injury bug, but I'm okay with that. I just don't want their fans saying we only won because they had a lot of injuries. Hey, I don't care if their fans say that because I can come right back to them and say, hey, you guys only got to the Super Bowl last year because we had all the injuries we had. So we can play this game all day, tit for tat. Round and round we go. Injuries are going to happen. Injuries are totally going to happen. And it's some years it's your years, other years it's not your years. So, the Niners are going to have to fight through it like we tried to fight through it last year, but I don't care how we do it, D-Boy. However we got to do it to get there, we get there, And don't forget about my feast theory, where to get to the Super Bowl, to get that number 1 seed, a lot of times you have to have the feast aspect of things. You've got to have a division that may be a little weaker. You've got to have a schedule that's not as tough. People love to go, iron sharpens iron, bro. All that. Yeah, that's true to a point, but there's also the point where the iron gets to the point of bending the other iron because you're beating up on each other, where the toughest of the tough are beating up and knocking each other out. And then you're so beaten up by the time you're getting the lesson iron that you're not as good a team. So there is a flip side to that as well. Ryan Wynn, are you worried about the Hawks pass rush? Couldn't seem to hit home with the front four. I am frightened of the pass rush, and I've been worried for a very long time, Ryan, before even this game, that the pass rush would be the thing that would sink our Super Bowl hopes this year. I know we can get to the playoffs. Pretty sure we could probably win a couple playoff games. I don't know I can look at recent history over the last 40 years of Super Bowl winning teams or teams that even got to the Super Bowl and find a lot of teams that can generate almost no pass rush there. You've got to have some guys somewhere that can get you something on that defensive line. Or you've got to be so magnificent in your schemes like the Patriots were in certain years, where if you don't have the prime guy who can pass rush, you can be so creative in generating your pass rush that you can overcome it. Seattle doesn't have that same DNA inside them of being schematically so varied in order to generate the pass rush. Yeah, Jamal can blitz from time to time. But as we saw last year when we were a top 10 blitzing team in the league, yet we were 29th in sacks, it's just not our bag, man. So you've got to get the pressure from the guys up front. You can't generate it. You've got to get it from the up front guys, which means we've got to bring on board some talent. Six pack and welcome on the chat, Ryan. Anyone know the update on beast mode? Six pack, we're probably going to have to wait on him, man. We'll need an injury or two to happen to bring him back, but he's there. He's there in reserves. Colton Young says, I was looking forward to watching Blair this year. Big loss. Me too. If I had a top 3 players, the guys I was really looking forward to in their development this year and where they were going, he was a guy on that list for me, especially after he had carved out a role there in the slot. Brutal to lose him. It's just tough. It's really tough. Hopefully he can come back, man. Boom shakalaka. Oh shit, your Hawaiian pigeon will get better over time. It will. I got to get around you guys, you got to get in the atmosphere of the pigeon talk. You can't just try to just bring it on from the outside. It's like learning a language, but I'll be speaking Italian in a couple weeks. Randall McDaniel, Bill Belichick's son looks like Joe Dirt. Isn't Pete's son on the Hawk staff? He is. Yeah, that guy's owning the mullet, man. He is owning the mullet. It's just at that point where you just don't care how you look. I'm a coach. M-Web says we need one of our rookie pass rushers to step up. Our D-line is powerful, but we're lacking speed. No excuse for Alton Robinson being inactive next week. I love Taylor's potential. I like the guys too, M-Web. I do like them. I just have some reservations about their ability to make an impact this year. No training camp, no rookie mini camps, no off-season camps. You got Darrell Taylor with the injury on the rod and his leg getting taken out, and he seems like he's really kind of struggling to come along very fast. And with Alton, look, the guy had a lot of great reviews, but he's not been active the first couple of weeks when you've not had guys who can generate any pass rush. So if he's doing so awesomely in practice and in training camp, how come he's not overcoming these guys who are showing us kind of nothing? It leads me to believe that maybe some of that talk is a little bit overhyped and that these guys aren't really going to be as ready and able to give us any kind of production this year in the now. Chad says, very few teams can produce a pass rush with just a front four. Norton rarely bought 5 or 6. I was a bit disappointed he didn't dial up more pressure. Yeah, it's hard, Chad, because within the schematics of your defense, you're not built to be a blitz-heavy scheme, number one. Number two, in the players that you scout and design for and look for in the draft and free agency, you value certain skills, being good blitzers, being good guys that can disguise their blitzes. You're not looking for those traits as much. That's why when you see a guy like Jamal Adams come in and he has those kind of traits and then utilizes them, everybody's like, whoa, that's amazing. Look at that. Yeah, because you don't look for that in guys because it's not in your DNA and your base genetics of your defense to be blitz heavy. This defense wants to have the front four win. I know what you said is true. It is true. It's hard for the front four to generate pressure, especially in this day and age with the spread concepts that you get like Arizona. We're going to get the ball out of their hands in 2.5 seconds. It gets really hard to rush the passer. But with that said, the defense is what it is with that. The defense requires those front four to generate the pressure. That's the defense you've built here. So they've got to find a way to make that work. They've got to find a way to get those guys there with it. Because they tried last year, Chad, to be a top 10 blitzing team. They tried. Top 10 blitzing last year. 29th in sacks. Bob, what's up, Bob? What do you think of the Metcalf versus Gilmore matchup? It was worth the price of admission on its own, Bob. And they did a great job on the telecast of showing the battles that were happening. And I really felt like you start to saw Gilmore get frustrated. A guy that's usually very calm, that doesn't tend to get chippy out there, just plays quiet, strong, that Patriot type of way. But you saw him starting to get frustrated, starting to be like, this physicality of Metcalf is a bit much. I'm getting bullied out here. I got to show something. I got to do something. And I thought Metcalf beat him on a couple of variety of different routes as he was trying to travel with them. And it just shows you the top end, Bob, of where DK can get to. When we say he's got a Hall of Fame trajectory, that he's on this type of ascent, it's not empty talk. It's not hype of a biased fan. It's because you can look at this guy on the field and what he's doing to the guys he's doing to week in and week out. You can look at the work ethic. You can look at the physical skill. You can look at the comparables previously that have the same kind of situation at play. And that's where you start to extrapolate those numbers and performance. The GOAT 209, what are your thoughts on Jordan Brooks? I mentioned and maintained Jordan wouldn't see the field unless, and so again, I hope you guys see this is one of the places I said, Jordan Brooks will not be a starter when he was drafted is what I said. Not going to happen. Everybody's telling me he's going to be moved to Will and then KJ moved to Sam. I said, nope. The only way Jordan Brooks sees the football field this next year is if there's an injury to Bruce Irvin, KJ Wright, or Bobby Wagner. And that's just how Jordan Brooks saw the field, isn't it? It's just how he got on the football field. And now he might be starting next week, depending on what they decide to do. They had him at the will linebacker throughout training camp, so they didn't do any training with him on the Sam. He did play that in 2018. Didn't see a lot of tape of him. He was chasing Cam on one play. They tried to have him pass rush a couple times. He's not really a very good pass rusher out there. He showed that in 2018 on his film that I looked at previously. So I didn't get a lot to go off of with him. But, it looks like he'll probably one way or another get a lot more snaps next week. Y2K says, I don't expect our D to be great, but I do feel we have some players to make the clutch plays when we need them. We do. Is it enough, DK, though, to win a Super Bowl? That's my question, because I look everything through that lens. I like having good seasons and going to the playoffs every year and being competitive. That makes me feel warm and fuzzy along with the rest of you. But I look at this as Russell Wilson's prime, and I look at this as Super Bowl or bust. And do we have the defense right now that can get to that Super Bowl that can win that? And that remains a question mark. 1, 2, 3. We have a weak 4-man pass rush. I agree with you. It is very weak right now, and it needs some upgrading. And not just one guy. We need to get a couple guys at this point. I know it's late in the game to do it, but this is the day and age when there's a lot of movement and versatility in football. To move things around as you need to move it, go do it. Get it done. Boom Shakalaka says, why did Seattle draft Taylor with a metal rod in his shin? I don't know. You gave up an extra third round pick to move up in the second round to get this, which would indicated to me at the time, oh, they're doing that because they see a guy who from day one can give them some pass rush. They've seen enough on tape to believe that. And when I looked at his pass rush, okay, he wins early, really fast and explosive, great bend. You can sometimes get some quick pass rush out of that at the NFL level. That doesn't take time then to develop. You can get some of that development right out the gate, some production there out the gate. But then to know now that he had that rod in his shin, which I didn't know when they drafted him, it really does kind of frustrate when you go, okay, so you just were basically drafting a guy to give him a redshirt year at a position you desperately need some help at. You know, what else could have you gotten with that second or third round pick, this being the case? It makes you ask that question, Boom Shakalaka. It definitely does. The GOAT says, put Blair on IR, sign Earl Thomas. It's desperate times. That's right, the GOAT. And what's the second part that comes at the end of that? Desperate times, call for desperate measures. Azos, how are you still up? Well, it's only 8:30 my time, Azos. I'm in Maui, man. I'm in Maui, bro. We're behind you guys, man. We take things slower here, you know. Oh, that was actually Hispanic. Azos, go to sleep. Cam carried the trash team today. Good game. Cam played great. That's the best I've seen him throw, I think, throughout his career. His feet were really settled, and that's been one of the biggest things I would knock on Cam Newton is that, you know, everybody tells me he's got this great work ethic, but I go, well, if he's got the great work ethic, then why is his feet still as trash as they were when he entered the league? He doesn't get him set underneath him. He's oftentimes falling backwards. He doesn't get out up on his front foot. Just look at his feet sometimes, and it's just they're all over the place. Today, the feet were quiet, throwing off the front foot, throwing with authority. The follow-through, everything was really, really good from his mechanics, and that's one of the things that really you worry about with him. But you're right, CJ. He carried him. He carried him. Fantastic performance. That was vintage Cam. And a tough matchup. It's hard to play against Cam Newton if Cam's going to run like that where he's healthy and running that read option, and they're not thinking about tomorrow, and it's just all for today, especially the guy like Bill Belichick and their offensive coordinator there. They're willing to get creative and go at you. D-Nugget, talk about all the injuries to San Francisco. Will that be good for us in the division? Yeah, I believe that San Francisco's season sitting on the precipice right now. I don't think it's an overstatement to say. They've lost Joey Bosa today, it looks like, to an IR and ACL. I think D Ford, their other good pass rushers, fighting off some injuries right now. They'd Solomon Thomas went down this game. I haven't heard the severity of that injury, but if you lose him now, you're starting to take your defensive line, which was your strength, and now starts to slowly move into just being potentially league average, and they need that defensive line to be great so that they can cover up some of their issues on their back end, specifically in their coverage. Then when you look at them on the offensive side of the ball, they're down all those receivers. Those guys are trying to just gut it through and get it through, and it's really light right there. They let Matt Breida go this offseason, but now you're down Raheem Mostert. George Kittle's going to be gone probably another week, and that knee thing he's going to be dealing with probably throughout the year. They can't afford to lose many. They certainly couldn't afford to lose like a couple, guys injured on that line. They're going to need to stay healthy now as they move forward. But it's going to hamper them, I think, even now. It hampers what their top end could have been this year. If you were going to look to forecast them into that 13-3 range or the 12-4 range, they certainly look now more into that realm of a 10-6 type team if they can even get to that point. Chad, Zona looking like they're going to be a problem. Zona's now, as I talk about Chad, the Niners taking that step back to that 10-6. It does now look like Zona's going to be that team to jump back in from what my forecast was to have them at that 9-7, 10-6 mark to jumping up to being now that 12-win team. They look legitimately like that kind of team. Kyler Murray is taking that next step forward in his development. He looks fantastic. Arizona's a problem. Arizona is absolutely a problem. Bob, Metcalf versus Gilmore opinion. Metcalf, I think I answered you up there, Bob, but I think that just a fantastic matchup. It was so much fun to see, and it's so great to watch Metcalf operating with that kind of confidence out there. He didn't show any tentativeness. He wasn't worried about the matchup. He was ready to go out there and put a show on. He was ready to go show everybody he had arrived, and he did it. Chad says, pump the brakes on the Olsen hate. I'm okay with that, Chad. I'm okay with that. I'm not out on Olsen quite yet. It's 2 games. It's a little bit odd when he's got a couple of these issues pop out that are controllable, the drops, the penalties, that kind of thing. But I still think he's going to be, if not a vital asset, a very important asset for us this season. D-Boy says, why is everyone in our division so good? Why is everyone doing so good and have to win? When are we going to start? Did you see this coming before the season started? Yeah, I did. I remember, D-Boy, one of the things I pointed to is I said we may have three teams coming from this division going to the playoffs this year. I thought it was a real feasible possibility this year because I was in on the Arizona hype, and not because I thought necessarily Arizona with all their draft moves and free agent stuff. It was just that they did enough good things for agency, enough good things in the draft, and knowing Kyler Murray was legitimately good, understanding they were going to take that step. San Francisco is who they are. The Rams have done a very good job of, despite losing the talent they've lost here over the last couple of years, of just maintaining and holding in them, playing really good football and changing some of the things they've done. McVay has shown himself to be a very good offensive mind, not just a one-trick pony offensive mind, but a guy who's changing what was their bread and butter even a couple of years ago into something else now, moving a little out of that 11 personnel, which is where they really operate out of in their Super Bowl season. So, yeah, I knew they were going to be this good, D-Boy. It was kind of what it was. On the flip side of it, the nice thing is, one thing I noticed when we came out of this last week was after week one, the teams outside of your division, those teams that we play remaining outside of our division, were a combined 3-8 after week one. I've not run the numbers yet for week two, but I would say it's somewhere in the nature right now, I think, of something like 5-13 or 5-14. So the one upside to you, D-Boy, on the division problem, and the one thing, the lining, the silver lining here would be maybe perhaps the outside of the division play, those Vikings games, for instance, right? The Giants, the Jets, the Miami Dolphins, those games outside the division are going to be very, very winnable. So maybe those will be the games where you can maybe at least take a bit of a breath, unlike last year where you were getting tough games in between the division games. Boom Shakalaka, will you be surprised if Arizona sweeps Seattle? I would be surprised. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to see them win one game, but they give us, and especially when coming into Seattle, they seem to play really well up here. We seem to play really well in Arizona. It's kind of just an oddity, but I would expect us to split the matchup at this point. Bob, he's way behind in the chat. You have to wait a minute. Sorry, Bob. I'm sorry for being a little slower here. I'll try to get a little bit faster. The GOAT. We can also sign Earl Thomas and move Diggs to the nickel. He played it before. That's what I'm thinking, the GOAT. It seems like the straightforward, smartest move to make here. Just my opinion. Stephen A. Smith, is this Softy Mahler? I hope so. We got a nice little debate this last week, Softy, if that's you, Stephen. What's up? Thank you for the $5 donation, M. Webb. I really appreciate it. He says we should look at this game as our offense scored 35 and our defense gave up 23. F you, Greg Olson. Offense will get Flash, Petty, Phil back. Cowgirls next. Yeah, the offense, no reason to believe the offense isn't going to continue to its rise. Josh Gordon just sitting there whenever we need him to pull him in off the bench here. So thank you for the $5 donation. And M-Web, look, if we can, there's a lot of teams in the league that have been trying to create this model of we'll create the super offense and then we'll just figure out the defense later on. It hasn't exactly worked 100%. I mean, the Chiefs kind of did a little bit of it last year, but then they still had enough guys defensively that they were legit. But there's been teams been trying to do it for years now. Maybe this is the year that Seattle finally breaks through with that approach. Create the super offense. Do what you can defensively. Chad, did we get a Zachary Haas? Wilson actually won me my fantasy game with 41 points on Yahoo. If he doesn't win the MVP this year, everything is rigged. If he plays like this throughout the year, he's going to force him to give him the MVP, Zachary. I mean, it's amazing play. The couple of those touchdown throws were just, jaw-dropping throws. The throw to DK right in stride, the toss back across his body to Lockett, the throw to Carson with the pressure breaking down, and then you still got the David Moore throw. I mean, there's quarterbacks that don't make those 4 throws over the course of a whole season. He does it in one game. And we see it over and over again where he does that type of thing week after week after week. They're going to have to do it, Zachary. They're going to have to do it if he keeps up this pace. There's no way to deny him. HB Zen says, go football team. Go Washington football team. Well, you guys kind of got toughed up a little bit this week, HB, but you guys, I still think you guys got a strong claim to maybe take that division. I think if Haskins can continue to develop, he had a little bit of a rough day this week, but I think he can come along. I do. He's a real young kid. He needs to get his feet wet. He just needs more seasoning, but if you get some legitimate play out of that offense, you guys do have the pass rush to get it done. It was a tough get this week. Kyler Murray's a tough guy to have a good pass rush against. You saw that with the 49ers last week. He just runs around the guys. So he sort of neutralizes your greatest strength to a degree. Chat just updated here. Oh my goodness. All right. So guys, I think I'm catching up and then I'm just like so much further behind. Oh my goodness. Yeah. All right. So we're going to try to catch up a little bit. If I miss your comment here, well, bear with me. The chat just like updated like hell here. So I might miss a few here, but I'm going to try to go through these kind of quick here. FU says they're going to sign Pete Carroll. It does look like Pete Carroll's going to sign a 3-year extension. I guess I'm okay with that. It is a little troublesome that the guy wants to build a defense first, and his defense is continually kind of getting a little bit worse. But he does bring some things to the play. He brings some things to the table that you can't deny. So, it does look like that is. Yeah, we've got a lot of people in the chat, so I'm going to try to get in here on the chat. I'm sorry I'm a little behind, you guys. It's we're filling up. FU says Reed is a good. He just needs another elite pass rusher. Yeah, I think, Jaron Reed's is not a problem on the defensive line. He's fine for what he is. And I agree with you, FU. I think he'd do a lot better if we had somebody else underneath out there on that edge. He's not the problem. It's just you need more than what you're getting from the guys that are on the field around him, I'd say. Gerald Turner, 1 MVP vote. Can he get just 1 MVP vote? Welcome into the chat, Gerald. He's going to get an MVP vote this year, it looks like. He's playing with a purpose and a resolve that I don't know if we've ever seen even out of Russell. And again, that's saying something as a guy that plays with purpose and resolve all the time. But he is what the definition of man on a mission. Russell is a man on a mission right now. D Nugget, Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack, tell him $900,000 a year. You just get a ring. Both guys might take it at this point, both guys. But the Bears, I think, are 2-0. They might think they actually have a chance there, though. I think that quarterback's going to come back. He's going to blow it for them at one point or another. The Texans gave up Clowney, and now the Cardinals Hopkins. What's next? Watt to the Rams and Watson to the Niners? I don't know what Bill O'Brien's doing there. And it's if you ever needed another example of why you don't give a head coach the general manager duties and you need to separate that, here's another final example for this for the owners out there to take. Do not give head coaches general manager roles. Just not smart. Chad, I thought the ejection was harsh. He didn't lead with the crown of his helmet. Nope. Face mask to face mask. That should have been the thing after they saw on replay, which should have not been like, okay, throw the penalty, keep him in the game though. Dustin, what's up in the chat? Justin, welcome on in. Pretty sure the Pats had enough time to take pictures of the play, print them, run them to Cam in the pocket, and then have Cam read them to look up and make the throw. No pass rush. Yep, it was awful. There's no way, 2 ways to slice it. There's no upside here. There's no, well, this guy was giving us some flash. No, it was awful. FU says, can we get Clowney back next year? Yes, we can. He'll be a free agent after the year, and the Titans cannot franchise tag him. So he will be back out on the market, and hopefully they will maybe be willing to release the purse strings a little bit more this next year. Iridescent, you read my mind. The Hawks Nest totally meant Melvin Ingram. My guy, yeah, I figured you knew what you were going to do. Zachary Haas, the Hawks Nest. What's your bold prediction for the 2020 season based off this game? Zachary, I still land in the standpoint of believing that this team's an 11-5, 12-4 team where we stand right now. And it's 11-5 is probably where you're at. I love Wilson playing at the MVP level, but we all just saw that with the pass rush. You're going to play against teams that are going to be better defensively and that they're going to be able to be better offensively. And I think that you're not going to be able to get away with as much of this just being a sieve defensively and hoping that Russell's going to be able to throw for 5-6 touchdowns every week. It's a lot to ask. But I'm going to probably still land there around the 11-5, 12-4 mark. You make me, if I got to be bold, let me go 12-4 just because, I think Russell's going to just play that good. Y2K, your pass rush statement is not correct with Clowney. Adams had 4 pressures last pressures week 1. Irvin had 3. We know Adams had multiple pressures today. It's like PFF and 4. Yeah, I'm going off my memory on this Y2K, and I haven't had a chance to see all the last stats. But the point being take Adams away. Again, Adams can't be our guy that we're relying on for our pass rush. The schematics of the defense rely on you to need the front four, one of those guys to give you some pass rush. So it's great. Adams is giving you some pressures there, but and Irvin having 3 week 1. I got to look at that. Let's look up the stats on that Y2K and we'll figure out where those are really sitting. Yeah, I'm far behind. I got to catch up. Sorry, guys. I'm moving now. Yeah, we'll get caught up here. My opinion, trade Griffin, get a good pass rush, and free agency, get a corner. It'd be an inventive way of going about it, FU, and somebody out there would probably value Griffin and give him the contract. The Jets wanted him in the initial trade offerings with Adams. So there would be somebody who might be willing to. FU, Dunbar is amazing, better than Griffin. I don't know if I go amazing. Dunbar definitely had a rough opening of that game, and he had a rough opening week. But he's at least able to make a play on the ball, and he's got some ball skills. So, that is saying something. Chad says they split with the Lambs last year, or did they get swept? We split. We won the first game, lost the second game. What's up, D-Mac? The ejection was totally called for. Our dude clearly led with his head. What a fool. I don't know if it was called for. The thing that gets me on that, Dustin, is that there was the front of the helmet's hit. If a guy's leading with his helmet, he's going to put his helmet down and lead with the crown of his helmet in. That's the one thing that leads me to believe that I don't think he should have been ejected. Use his helmet. Dustin's feisty, Chad. Just be ready for it. Dustin likes to get himself into some feisty fights. D Nugget says you should join Steve Rabel in the booth for color commentary. You have a good voice. I'd love to do that. That'd be an honor for you to be with Steve Rabel. That'd be a dream job for me, D Nugget. Aiden Reynolds says, bro, I'm going to go insane if there's no Geno Atkins or at least Ryan Kerrigan trade. Well, you don't have to go insane, Aiden. They're going to make some move. They can't just run with what they're running with right now, and they've got cap space to spend. So those two things as a prerequisite should allow us to find some other kind of deal out there to be had. But I agree with you. We've got to do something. We can't roll with what we got right now. This is not enough. It's not even close to being enough. RB and wide receiver can truck defenders with their heads, but defenders can't. Yeah, and they're supposed to call those wide receivers, and they're supposed to call the wide receivers and running backs when they do that too, FU. I mean, that's the fun part about it, is that they put that rule in too, but they don't ever call it. You know, Dave Schwartzer, seemed like Cam was the same old Cam like in Carolina. Will he ever get hungry to win, or am I just spoiled with Russell? Will he ever get hungry to win, or am I just spoiled with Russell? Yeah, Cam was vintage Cam in this game, Dave. And look, he had a year off last year to get that body right. He looked great as a thrower, certainly not being under a lot of pressure, allowed him to feel real comfortable in that pocket and sling it wherever he wanted to sling it. They're using him like they used him in 2017 as well, with the read option stuff and making the offense real simple for him, not trying to necessarily turn him into like the prototypical NFL passer like the Panthers kind of were over his last year or two there. But I don't think Cam's probably ever going to win anything, because I think his body's not going to hold up at 31 and 32 to run like this for very long. I think you're going to see him back in the injury spot sooner than later. D-Boy says, my girlfriend mad at me. She said I was ignoring her when the game was on. Well, look, girlfriends are going to get ignored when the game is on. If they get mad at you for that, then you don't have a keeper on your hands, D-Boy. She's got to understand that. That's like deal breaker stuff if she gives you a hard time for that. Randy Say Young, any early predictions for next week? Hawks versus the Cowgirls, win-loss. I'm going to have it as a win, Randy. It's a total homer pick because I don't have a lot of confidence right now with knowing Dak's going to be able to just throw all over the football field. But let's go with the 41-38 is my prediction right now. Venomous. What's up, Venomous? I'm a Panthers fan. Happy week to see Cam get back to form this week. Man, he looked really good, Venomous. He looked really, really good. And that's as good throwing the ball, I think, as I've ever seen him. I don't know if he had a game like that with Carolina where he was as on target in his throws. He always seemed a lot more wild to me when we played them before. But he was on point. He was still doing all that typical read option run stuff right up the middle. I'm so glad we could stop him on that goal line stand. Such an incredible play there by those two youngsters over there. But he looked good, Venomous. He looked back to old Cam form, man. Colton Young, it was a bang play. Yep. The one thing too, Dustin, I'd go to is how often do guys get ejected, Dustin? Look over the last couple of years of guys being ejected and how many of those kind of hits happen where guys are on bang plays. It's a slant route over the middle, two guys running full speed at each other. I get the 15-yard penalty, but the targeting for ejection is a little bit much for me at that point. That's the one where I'm like, I don't know. Colton Young mentions Cody Barton had a big-time hit on the special teams to give us some energy and clutch time. Yeah, I love the way the team's hitting over the first 2 weeks, too, in addition to that, Colton. Everybody's on this team playing physical like we need them to. You got to be willing in this team with the bend but don't break defense, and I know that one happened on special teams, but the willingness to hit guys on play after play after play, this is the thing that also makes it a little bit tough when Diggs gets ejected is that, he's just trying to be in there and be physical like you want. Make these receivers pay when they're going to catch a ball over the middle. Makes it hard if the officials don't let him play on that. But again, I knew why that was a flag, so I'm not against the flag there. It was a valid call. Dustin's always going to instigate on the chat. You guys know that. And Cody Barton might be your starter at the Sam this week. I think he's the one they've been having over at the Sam through training camp. So he might be that guy. Don't be surprised if it does play out that way. Videomaker says our pass rush is ass cheeks, bruh. Newton literally had all day to throw the ball. He did. And they are ass cheeks. They're dirty ass cheeks. So they need to, they got to do something, man. I know I've been repeating myself over and over on this one, but they got to do something. Videomaker says the problem is Cam Norton Jr. To me, Videomaker, the problem is, and not that I'm a big backer of Cam Norton even, but I think the bigger problem, Videomaker, here is a lack of attention this offseason to getting the pass rush built up. You knew it was a problem going into the offseason, and you decided to go out and get Benson Mayowa and Bruce Irvin and say, we're good. That's it. We're done. That's not acceptable. You could see this train coming down the tracks. It was not hard to know that it was going to come down this way. Chad says, my crop top died for a second, reading back. Videomaker, we need to play more aggressive and press at the D-line. They got to probably do a little more. I wouldn't mind seeing that, Videomaker, too, because a guy like Dunbar is going to probably be better in man than he is in zone. I know he jumped a zone route here today, but he'd probably be even better doing a little bit more man stuff. So your personnel might be better for that, too. It's a way to go through and fix because then you can blitz a little bit more as well, Videomaker. Dustin says, why was this not a blowout? Because you cannot generate any pass rush, Dustin. If you generate pass rush, they don't put the points up on the board that they put up. This is then a blowout. But you weren't able to generate a pass rush. He's just now getting to Bob's question. Oh my gosh, I was behind, huh? Yeah. FU says once Josh Gordon comes back, Russell about to throw for 6 touchdowns a game. Hey, Josh Gordon's a beautiful fit for this offense, and he still has some skills he showed last week. He's still got some legs. He can run. He still can catch. Once he gets on here, he's going to help this offense out, especially get him for a majority of the season. Titan Anderson, what's up? Tighten up. How you doing, Titan? You guys are 2-0. Congrats. Congrats on getting Clowney, too. You guys snuck in there and ripped them from us. Ripped them. Rango Tango. Hopefully our pass rush defense improves throughout the season. It's going to need some more talent if it's going to improve, Rango. Really is. Really is. Alex Smith, special teams looking miles better this year. Welcome, Alex. And yeah, it is. It's looking a lot better. And it's been a detriment, not just going back to last year, but the last couple of years in a lot of different aspects, right? In the kicking game. And in that, Michael Dixon had the great rookie year, but then it's been not as great since. And in the punt returns, Tyler Lockett burst onto the scene in his rookie year and then slowly starts to fall away. And the kick returns slowly start to fall away. And you start to go, man, this used to be a strength of ours, and now it's almost a weakness. Great to see this come back as a strength, and it'll win us a football game or two this year. If it can be a strength like this, it will win us a game or two this year. Chad, you get deep with Dustin. He'll argue with you for days, man. He'll argue with you for days. Insanity Mixes. Thoughts on Russ? Thoughts on Jamal's performance? Thoughts on Dunbar today? Last on thoughts on our pass rush, which is holding us back. Well, Russell, he's MVP. It's hard to add more to what everyone has said about him. He's playing at a level that's even, I think, higher than what we've seen at any time in his career. I mean, the guy's throwing it like 75, 80% completion rate, and he's hitting his bombs, and he's utilizing the short passing game, and he's scrambling around and running effectively. He's out of his mind. Jamal Adams was solid today, not spectacular like last week, and he's a damn fine addition to this team, and he's absolutely needed. We can build around him. He'll be better when we can get him some pass rush, I think, and we can move him around, and we don't have to be so reliant on him everywhere. It's a little bit like Clowney last year, where it's just like you're going, man, he's just the one guy on the team who's giving you a lot of worth out there, and it's like the only guy, and you're waiting for him to do it and nobody else. It gets a little disconcerting at times with that. Dunbar started out rough. First quarter or two was a little tough. They picked on him a bit. Hey, he jumped the route, had his hands on another interception. The guy knows how to get his hands on balls as a former receiver. I like his upside as he continues to develop. But there's still some rough parts. There's still some rough patches. Boom Shackler says, my fantasy got effed up. Kittle, Barkley, Godwin, Montgomery. Oh, that's brutal, man. Sorry, buddy. It happens. There's some of those years where it just happens. Yeah, Air Dustin says, regardless of the stupid action, it didn't need an ejection. And that's what it comes down to for me, Dustin, is I can get why they would give the penalty. I don't get why there's an ejection. Ejection should be targeting. Ejection should be Vontaze Burfict coming in after play, sending his helmet head down, going right at another player's head. That's targeting. That to me is not what was going on the Quandre Diggs play. Randall McDaniel, do you think Bill Belichick looks at Pete kind of like a dirty hippie or at the least eccentric? Probably pisses him off to lose Pete to even more. Beating Bill is especially sweet for Carroll. I don't think so. I think Bill just sees Bill is so much an understander of history of football and the various ways to win and the various different methodologies. I think he's more of an appreciator of those methodologies, even if he doesn't necessarily agree with it or want to run his team that way. It's a guy that maybe it's a guy that is like a filmmaker. He's an auteur and he makes these little low budget films, but he's amazing at it. And he looks at a guy that does this big budget stuff, but he does the big budget stuff great, like a Spielberg. And does that auteur not appreciate Spielberg's work at that point? No. I mean, I think he probably does. Just he knows he just does it a different way. How far is he from reading this message? Cryptics, what's up, Cryptic or Siptic? I can't pronounce your name. Seahawks are so good, bruh. What you talking about? Our running backs were running the Patriots over, says Siptic. You're right. They were. Running backs played fantastic in this game. Hyde and Carson ran strong, hard. When there was 2 yards to be had, they found you 4 yards. When there was 4 yards, they found you 6 yards. I liked what they did today from their effort standpoint. Andrew Zavala, is Flowers or Dunbar starting? Dunbar is currently starting at the moment. They're giving Flowers, hiccups. They're giving Flowers some of the snaps, but Dunbar is getting most of the snaps. Videomaker says, I hate how people blame the pass defense on the corners when it's the way we play them. We play too soft, and I get when we have a 14-plus lead, but we got to play more on the ball. Yeah, Videomaker, you kind of touch on it. It's a little bit of what you do schematically and what you're just asking your guys to do. We play off ball. We play cover 1, cover 3. I mean, that's what the team wants to do. And in playing cover 3 with your cornerbacks, you're going to ask them to drop to the deep half of the field when you're asking them to do that. We can be angry about it, mad about it, but it's just the schematics of the defense itself. It's also why you've got to get the pressure with the front 4. What you're hoping to do within a video is this. You're hoping to give up the dink and dunks. You're hoping to be the bend, but don't break. You're hoping you get a guy come up and lay a hit, cause a fumble, or a receiver drops a pass and it bumps off a guy like with Greg Olsen earlier in this game and drops right into your safety's arms. You're waiting for the offense to kind of make a mistake by having to be so patient and working the ball up the field. But I get where you're coming from. It can get a little bit frustrating when you're just watching these easy completions sitting right there for the quarterback play after play after play. Randall McDaniel, Kirk Cousins playing like dog crap. Yep. He's playing horribly, Randall, and it's man, is he regretting? Is he regretting, or he's regretting playing for the Vikings? But it looks like that loss of Diggs there is really hurting them. They were really relying on having those two dynamic receivers every week, and not having one now has seemingly really put that offense behind the eight ball. They look like a wholly different team. Space says Russell is so good, he's a gourmet chef. Oh, he's a gourmet chef at a 5-star restaurant in France, in Paris, right outside the Eiffel Tower. He's that good. Iridescence, I'm not saying you're wrong, although other calls of similar plays, you guys are still, you guys know Dustin is trolling you guys probably at this point. He probably doesn't even think he should be ejected. He just likes to wind you guys up. So I'm warning you, Chad, that's his way. I don't let him get me in those fights no more. QT Tiny, who do you have winning in week 3, Cowboys or the Seattle? I've got Seattle winning in a shootout 41-38, QT. James Johnson, it's so crazy how much time Cam had. I feel like we can't cover for that long. I agree, James, and this is where I come back to. I've said it before. In this defense, what you have to do is first build and get the guys up front rather than the back end guys first, which is what we've done. We've gone for the back end guys first and neglected the front guys. And my whole theory with this is, again, I got a back end guy, a secondary guy, a corner who can't cover past 5 seconds. For 5 seconds, he can lock down. But at 5.2 seconds, that guy's breaking open. Well, if I've got the defensive line that can get there in under 5 seconds, doesn't matter that he's not going to get to that 5-second point. So it's irrelevant. Pass rush will get there. He'll have the guy covered. The inverse of that, I got a guy who's a better coverer. He can cover 6, 7, 8, 9 seconds, but my pass rush can't get there in 10, 11, 12, 13 seconds. It doesn't matter. One helps the other doesn't help the other, if that makes sense. And I think that's what's happening here a little bit. FU, I'm not really on the hype of the Cards. They played good against the 49ers, but Washington is trash. I want to see them play a good team, maybe the 49ers again or the Rams. I would be with you, FU, as far as the team as a whole around Kyler Murray. It's more of my feeling of what I see in Kyler Murray as a player and his development, what he does. He's a guy he's a lot of Russell Wilson's game is in Kyler Murray. And you could make the argument he might have a quicker release than Russell. He might have a little bit stronger arm, probably not as accurate, doesn't throw with as much touch. Certainly doesn't have the decision-making that Russell has, but he's a dangerous player to me. And maybe I am overhyping him a little bit, but he feels like a little bit of a dangerous player to me. James Johnson says, chat updated, sorry. Chat updated. Man, I think I'm getting close, and then it just updates like. James Johnson says, who are the viable pass rushers that haven't been signed? All I've got for you is Clay Matthews, James. When I looked at the list before, it was a bunch of guys. Nobody was going to get you excited. You don't have anything better than Ben Simeoa. I would not think better than even the rookies you have at this point available on the market. There's a dearth of guys out there, just not a lot. Snacks Harrison's out there as a one tech that it's been forwarded to having Seattle with him being over here, but there's not a lot. There's really not a lot, James. It's lean. It's lean. Randall says, when we signed Olsen, my wife said, why? He's old as hell and washed up. She's usually spot on with her takes. She was right on that one, man. She was right on that one. It was a head scratcher for me too, especially when you went all the way up to $7 million. It seemed like quite a high price to pay for a 35-year-old tight end, especially when you're needing that money for pass rush. James Johnson says, man, it's so annoying when KJ Wright injured his own teammate when the play was over. It's going to be really annoying if we watch our slot situation turn horrible this year, knowing KJ did that. And again, for some of those out there that thought KJ should have been cut and that his $6.9 million should have been moved into other places and that you should go with somebody else at linebacker, even if it was Cody Barton. It's really annoying to watch a play like that where he's coming in and he's slow to the play because he's a little slower. And he's trying to lay some lick that the guy's already on the ground, like you said. Just annoying. Bob Smith says, Tack McKinley's a possibility target. Yep, he is a possible target from the Falcons. He might be a decent guy. Kerrigan, Melvin Ingram, Yannick. Who am I trading for? I don't know that the Vikings are going to give up Yannick at this point with the trade that they did make for him. Tack McKinley, I might go with Tack just because he's got the young legs and he's got a little bit of the upside. And I feel like with Ryan Kerrigan and Melvin Ingram at this point, Bob, you're getting guys that are a little bit cooked. Maybe they got a little bit more left, but I like Tack's maybe upside. He's coming from the same scheme in Atlanta. He'll be able to run similar concepts to what we're running here. I know he's not been great, but man, he looked pretty active in week 1. So I'd probably go that route. D-Boy says, the Hawks Nest, the chat's going to get so much worse now. We got a lot more people in here. I got my girlfriend, my mom, little brother watching you now. And yes, they sub and hit the like button. Well, thank you from the D-Boy family. I don't know your last name, D-Boy, but I appreciate your family watching, getting everybody tuned in. Appreciate that. You guys know anybody, friends and family, Seahawks fans, please do let them know about the show. Help the show grow. That's awesome to hear, D-Boy. Tell them thank you for smashing that like button. Wheeler, do you think the Pats win if Newton takes the last snap under center? No, I think the best way to run that, and it's the traditional way you want to run that with Cam, is out of the read option look. If I'm an offensive coordinator, I'm running it exactly that way. I want him coming downhill. I don't know if I would run to the left side, and I think they were trying to go at LJ Collier and attack after Lano Hill on that side a little bit. I would have gone right up the gut, like they had a couple times with Cam Newton in this game and had success with him going right up the middle. When you start getting him now turned a little bit sideways, give our defense a little bit more time now to get to him. I didn't like that aspect. But no, I think they had him in the right place. D Nugget says, Chris Collinsworth said he was going to vote for Russell, but turned his ballot in late and now can't vote. That was one where I was like, thanks for that note, Chris. Thank you. Great. Thank you, Chris. I get the vote in. If you got a Hall of Fame vote, get it in. Like, don't you? I mean, guys got a personal assistant probably, or something. Yeah, Dustin, I do agree with Chad on this one, and you can argue back and forth on this one, man. But again, I asked you to provide me an example of a guy that has targeted in a football game and been ejected in the last couple of years with a similar play. I'm sure we can go through a lot of hits of guys having helmet-to-helmet contacts over the last couple of years where the face masks run into each other like that on a bang-bang play, and they were not ejected for it. That's the key difference here, I think, Dustin, on that one hit. Insanity Mixes says, I think Benson Mayowa is our best pass rusher other than Adams. It's bad. Yeah, it is. And he's not a good pass rusher. But you're right. That's as good as it gets to that point. So it is just that bad. Cowboys have a horrendous secondary, says AB. Yes, they do. That's why I'm going to look at this as being a shootout. That's why I've got it as a 41-38 game. FU says, how much cap space are we going to have next year? As I understand it right now, you're sitting somewhere in the range of like 30 million, I think, right now, FU. But you have the 5th most amount of cap space as we currently stand right now. That's with what I'm potentially anticipating is going to be probably Dwayne Brown's retirement, which would clear you off another $13 million in cap space right there. And then you can also make a decision with Tyler Lockett and Quandre Diggs on their contracts, be it to trade, release, or re-sign, and then maybe free up some space there as well if you were to go that route. So they're sitting very nicely as far as cap space as we move forward to FU. 12th Man Highlights. What's up, 12th Man Highlights? How you doing? Personally, I'm glad that LJ Collier's on the field and made that play to stop Cam. Hopefully a bright future for him. Hopefully he can build off of that. And look, for the last couple of weeks, we've had a couple of flashes with him. We had no flashes with him in his first year. First week, he comes off the guy trying to cut him at the line of scrimmage, get some quick early pressure there on Matt Ryan. This week, he's able to have this key stop at the end right at the goal line. I'd like to see him now start to stack some of these plays up a little bit, maybe get some more, maybe even give us some pass rush, but it's a step in the right direction. It's a step in the right direction. Chad says, I'm new around here. People don't know I'm a Taurus and stubborn, hard-headed. Oh, Chad, you can go for it as much as you want, man. I don't want my new people getting turned off by Dustin hammering him. I know Dustin likes to go hard, so it looks like he's starting to. 3 hours in the chat starts getting feisty. Alex Smith, any appreciation for Michael Dixon's punting? Fantastic punting today. He was cold cough kicking. Is that cold coffin kicking? I can't say words after 3 hours, but he was kicking inside the 20 really well. The 64-yard booming punt was just huge for flipping the field position at that time. You needed a big-time punt, and he put it in a spot where the guy couldn't return it back. Great job by him, Alex. He was a fantastic in this game. Gives us really a lot what we got in that rookie year, where you put a 5th-round pick on this guy, specifically hoping you're getting one of the best punters in the league at that point for the next 5 to 10 years. And he has that potential. He's got that in him to do it. FU, with Bruce back, do you think Bennett will be coming out of retirement and join the Hawks? Hey, it'd be a good signing, man. You can get him back at this point. All hands on deck. Anybody and everybody that's available, we need help in any way we can get it. So I'd be okay with bringing back Michael Bennett at this point. Agion, 3 Quagions, stopping by to say go Hawks. What's up, Agions? Thank you for welcoming on in the chat. DJ Essendon's Issa DJ Thang. Why would you wish an injury on Cam? I wouldn't wish an injury on Cam, but if they keep using him like this, he ran 15 times in the first week, ran a bunch this week, hammering into the home. He's not a 25-year-old guy anymore. He's 30-plus years old. He's had a lot of that wear torn off that tire. You'd like to see them be a little more protective with them, but the Patriots don't care. They got him on a 1-year, $1 million deal. They're playing for no tomorrow. They don't care if he gets beat up. I just think he'll probably will get beat up if they keep using him like this with this kind of discretion. HawksNest, how do you feel about the no call with the Ramsey? With the no call of the Ramsey and the Cowboys in the last play of the game? Are you talking about the pass interference penalty on Ramsey that allowed the Rams to win? Hard to say. That was a lot of hand fighting back to back. I always go to who is the initiates the initial like hand fighting when there gets to be hand fighting between a cornerback and a receiver down the field. And in that play, I thought Ramsey initiated the contact. Gallup did the more egregious thing, but when it's in reaction to the initial player grabbing him, harder for me to necessarily want to call the penalty at that point. I end up leaning back on let him fight it out. Let the play decide at that point if they're both grabbing. The GOAT, is a second rounder enough for Chandler Jones if they want to do it? Teams, the GOAT never trade to other teams within their division. It's just something they won't do. So the Cardinals would never give us Chandler Jones. Alex Smith, 71 net yards on a punt after the penalty. That makes him a potential Pro Bowl candidate this year, Alex, if he could do that kind of stuff. I mean, that's the thing. It's one thing to kick those 64-yarders, but it's usually when you do that, the trajectory so low, you're giving the returner a 15, 20-yard return. But to do that kind of kick and to place it where he put it and to get the height that he did in the air, that's a money kick. Money kick. Chad, oh my gosh, I totally lost a girlfriend because of my sports fascination. Fantasize. I can't speak. I know what you're saying, Chad. I've had a few girlfriends look at me sideways over the years on it too. You got to get the cool girlfriend. That's the key. The long-term girl, the girl that understands. D Nugget, Cam couldn't resist and did the Superman today again. Yeah, you knew he would want to be back on. He did it prematurely, even when he didn't score. He was trying to whip it out. Tiffany, what's up, Tiffany? Love seeing that ball hogging glory hound get stuffed. Oh, it did feel good to stuff him, especially when he's in his one place that's his one thing he's good at. The 3rd and 1, the 3rd and shorts. I can do this. It don't matter. I can get this. I can't throw great, but I can do this. And you stopped him on his bread and butter, Tiffany. It was fantastic to see. Fantastic to see. It gave me a heart attack, but it was awesome to see. DJ SSN, ISS, DJ Thing says that wasn't a bang-bang play. He led with his helmet. I think there was a little bit of leading with the helmet to the degree in the contact. It is hard when you got two guys coming at each other and one guy's dropping his head and the other guy's trying to drop his head. And it's very easy when you look at these guys in slow motion and say, oh yeah, it's totally led with his head. You're watching it in slow motion. Try full speed, running full speed fast. You don't always have the time to target that stuff in. The usual indicator to me, DJ, is when the head drops and it becomes a crown move. That's when it becomes targeting, when players really doing that. I didn't see that. Now, with that said, DJ, yes, it should have been a penalty. Helmet to helmet hit, 15-yard penalty. Should he be ejected? That was where it seemed a little bit much for me. I was just saying Chandler Jones play for the Cards. Troops, imagine how many guys will get DQ'd for tackles they've been doing for 10 plus years. Yeah, if they start ejecting guys for those kind of tackles, they're going to see a lot more guys being ejected. But I have a feeling, as someone else said, this was a national game. It went back to New York. Somebody in New York decided to ring him up at that point. I don't think you're going to see that happen again very often. D Nugget says, why did John Snyder not build the D line? When you get the answer to that, D Nugget, you let me know. It seemed pretty obvious to me. And I said it to you guys at the end of the Green Bay Packer game, at the end of the game, the last game of the season. I said, we need to rebuild the defensive line. I didn't say add a couple parts and pieces when you get a chance, if you can get around it. But if you can't, it'll be fine. If a guy like me as a layman, as a talking head, as a guy talking to you guys from my living room can tell you, oh, we need to get this done, you would have hoped it would have been obvious enough to a general manager. It just wasn't. Wayne Wilson says we should get Earl Thomas back. He can play that not the Blair is out, put Earl in Leno's position. I'm with you, Wayne. It looks like that needs to be the spot you do. I think more you bring Quandary Diggs up into the slot and then you'd put Earl back at the free safety, but it seems like a move that maybe is out there as a possibility in a decent one at that. Tiffany says, my vote is Clay. I love Earl Thomas, but he needs some serious humbling time. Yeah, I'm the way Earl left would make it tough at times, going to the Cowboys locker room saying, come get me, the middle bird he gave. He did his share of burning bridges on his way out of town, which has made it hard to thought of even him coming back. But Clay is something that you may be the better move at this point. You need pass rush more than you need secondary play. That's for sure, Tiffany. So I wouldn't be against that. I'd be in favor of it. YSM says, what do you think about returning the play on them when we're on the 1 yard line and not making it crazy? What do you think about returning the play on them when we're on the 1 yard line and not making it crazy? That'd be great. YSM, it'd be nice to have a bunch of comfortable wins and blowouts and all that type of stuff, but just not the way we play our games, man. They love the heartbreakers. They love the heart attacks. UFA X Goku, shout out for sure. Shout out to you, UFA. Thank you for the $5 donation. I really do appreciate it. I've not checked out your channel, but shout out to you for that. Thank you for donating to the Hawks Nest. I do appreciate it. Big time. Squad up. What's your prediction for the Seattle record this season? Squad up, I'm standing at about 11-5 or 12-4. It's probably going to depend on when you ask me. Being a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I might flip back and forth. There's a part of me that's very pessimistic about this defensive line that has me putting it to the 11-5 spot. But then there's a part of me that says Russell Wilson is playing so amazingly at such an MVP level that they'll get to the 12-4, 13-3 record. It's really hard for me to go between the two at this point because it's two things that are just are running away from each other at two different speeds. And I have a hard time balancing up between the two of them. D-Boy, the Cox Nest. The Cowgirls have a shot at making history to beat the Birds dynasty. It's never happened before. They play all the Birds this year. Do they? That's awesome. Apple Target. What's up, Apple Target? Welcome to the chat. Video Maker says, what do you think will be the trap game this year? Well, somebody had mentioned it earlier this last offseason, and I think I'd go to it right now. I think the Washington Redskins game could be a trap game. You could be going against a front four there that's able to really get some pressure on Russell, drop a bunch of guys back in coverage, and maybe Dwayne Haskins is coming along enough at that point to give our defense some problems, especially if you don't have him under any pressure and he's allowed to be nice and cool back there. AKA Ollie, hello. I am new here and I already like you. Well, thank you, AK. I like you too. I appreciate you jumping on in the chat. Please hit that subscribe like button for me, man. I really do appreciate it, but love to hear that. David 206 says, go Hawks. Go Hawks, David 206. It was a great win, wasn't it, my guy? Thank you for jumping on the chat. Mighty John Boy in. Mighty Joni Boy in. Do you think Diggs is getting ejected was too far of a punishment? Should have been given a warning at first. Yeah, they don't do warnings in the NFL. That part, unfortunately. What I would say, Mighty, is they don't do a lot of ejecting either for the targeting. It's got to be, to me, really egregious if you're going to do that. I don't think it was really egregious in that respect. Certainly, I'm okay with the 15-yard penalty. Good with that. Fine. But ejection, that was a bit much. It was a bit much for me. They don't. I hardly ever see any kind of ejections in the NFL, and I see a lot of those other kind of hits that we saw with Diggs and the receiver. D Nugget says, if we fans talk about obvious things like building D-line, getting Clowney, building O-line, why doesn't the front office see it the same way and see things and about this a while? Sorry, it's kind of broken up there, D Nugget, and how you wrote. I kind of get what you're saying, which is if it's so clear to us and me and the fans and stuff that they need this kind of things, why isn't it as clear to the front office? Well, they tend to have, I think the front office and all NFL teams are probably guilty of this, is you falling in love with your players. You'll fall in love with the guys that you've drafted. You'll believe in them taking that step forward of development and getting better as players and improving and coming along. You're always going to gravitate towards that because you trust your process. You trust your scouting. And that will get you to fall into trouble at times when those players then don't develop, don't come along, because you don't really have a backup plan for it, or you didn't develop a backup plan for it. But it is a frustration for me too, D Nugget, and I don't have a great answer for it because this thing was a hole you saw all year long. You know, I can understand if you have 1 year in a single season where you don't realize that your D-line was going to be what it was. You're like, oh, we signed Ziggy Ansah. He's been a 10-sack-a-year guy. We got Clowney coming in, and Jaron Reed back after he's off the 10.5-sack year. No reason to think the D-line's not going to be great. But once you've got that year of data to go off of, now you've got enough time to go and now fix that. Now, you know, we can't have the pie in the sky, the being too optimistic. We got to understand the reality for it. And that's where they didn't. Squad up, what's your prediction for the record? Yeah, I got 11-5, 12-4 right now for Seattle as they go forward. UFA XQ Goku says, need viewers to get enough to buy a PS5. I hope you get enough to do it, man. PS5 looks like it's awesome, my guy. Appreciate you on that dono. Everybody check out Goku's channel. YSM says, is it LK? It's early in the season, but what's your prediction about a shot in the Super Bowl? Hard to see, Jal, us getting to the Super Bowl right now with this pass rush. I can look at every team over the last 40 years that's just made it to the Super Bowl. Let's say nothing of winning the Super Bowl. I don't know that there's been a team that's gone to the Super Bowl over the last 40 years with this bad of a pass rush. It's that bad. So that's the thing that holds me back from saying we're in a Super Bowl state right now. We've got an offense that's a Super Bowl capable offense, but we need the defense not to be ranked 31, 32, 33, 31, or there's no 30, 33, not ranked 30, 31, 32 at the end of the year. I don't need you guys to be top 5, top 10 defensively, but you guys have got to get to a state where you're not just completely just floodgates opened at all time. D Nugget says, when Bill Belichick retires, I see him having a history of a football show on the XFL network. That'd be cool. The guy's got a lot of football knowledge and he loves to talk about football history. And he knows what he's talking about with that type of stuff. See, Goku, we got you some subs here, man. My people have my back when you throw a dono out there. Mighty Joni Bo says, I don't like the fact that now nearly every person in the sports media have jumped on the hype train after saying the Hawks are doing everything wrong. Yeah, people are reactive, Mighty Joni Boy. I mean, they are. But that's why you come to listen to me, because you know I'm going to keep it right down the middle and straight. But that's what you get with the media. They're very reactive, and they're not as analytical as they should be in their approach at times. Too reactive. Video Maker, we have too many problems to be a Super Bowl team this year. 1 pass rush, obviously, 2 O-line, 3. We always let teams come back, and it's going to come back to bite us. Yeah, I think really the first thing you mentioned, Video Maker, to me is the main thing. The other 2 things, I'm not as on board in thinking the O-line's a problem right now. It's nowhere near as much of a problem as we've seen in recent years. And part of the reason that teams are allowed to come back is that you can't get any pass rush. You got up on this team. You should have been pinning your ears back. You should have guys not worry about the run so they could just go right after the quarterback. But that wasn't the case. They still couldn't generate pressure. That to me makes it a problem, but it's a massive problem too. It's not just a little problem or one in addition to others. Chad says, Dustin, poor Dustin, man. You wind them up, Dustin. They come at you. I can't stop them, man. Once you get those folks mad. Mighty John Boy, what are some potential safeties we might pick up? You got Clinton Dix out there. He's not a free safety anymore. His play's fallen way off. Earl Thomas is the guy that would be the obvious one you'd look at, Mighty Joni Boy. I don't think you'd look anywhere else but him. Daniel W. says, man, the more I sit on it, the more I'm mad that KJ Wright just ruined one of our young up-and-coming players of the future. KJ should have been cut to save the money anyways. I don't disagree, man. I don't understand why KJ's held onto the roster. I don't know what they saw in him to say, this guy's worth $7 million this year. He's not a $7 million a year player. I think he had one play in this game where he jumped up in the running route and stopped the run. But other than that, he doesn't show up on the football field, man. He's just a guy at this point. It made me mad too. It's going to make me mad going forward. It really sucks that he came in like that and did that. And it's just brutal play. What will the Hawks do with Irvin out the next 4 to 6 weeks, says Mighty Joni Boy. Will we see Brooks out more? Do they change their scheme? I don't think they'll change their scheme. I would say I'm going off of what we heard from training camp, which is in training camp, you had Brooks playing the will, and then you had Cody Barton, I think, still back over there on the Sam. I might expect us to probably go back into Cody Barton there at the Sam, but they may just try to find a way to get Brooks onto the football field. And so he played some of the Sam-like role in 2018 with the team, Texas team he was on in college. So he has played a little bit in that role before, but he didn't necessarily play it great for the things we'd ask him to do, which is set the edge and do a lot of that. It's not really his game. Dustin is a commie Chinese bot. Chad, it's week 2. I know people are freaking, but pump the brakes. A lot of factors have played in these 2 weeks. Yes, there's some issues, but not as bad as some make it out to be. Well, Chad, I do think the pass rush is as bad as we're making it out to be. It's bad. It is. Now, is it going to kill the team? No, it's not going to kill the team. It's not going to do that. But yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Andrew Flores says, do you think Jordan Brooks will be a great linebacker? He potentially has, if he has potential of being a great linebacker, Chad, but it's when he gets moved into the middle linebacker role. He's not going to be a great linebacker as an outside linebacker. That's not his game. Can he play the position? Yeah. But is that where his best fit is long-term? No. But he maybe potentially could be a great middle linebacker. So that potential does sit out there if Bobby's not looking at wanting to play more than a year or two. The GOAT says, if we start Ugo Amadi next week, we are effed. They're going to abuse him. They will attack him, especially those receivers all got some good size to them. So, yeah, I would expect them to go right at him. They don't mind moving Mari Cooper up in the slot. Michelle Swanson Davis. How you doing, Michelle? Thanks for jumping on in the chat. Appreciate it. I was trying to block, but not sure how to. I can handle debate and discussion, but I don't wish to see spam. Yeah, Dustin likes to do some spamming sometimes. Connor Dunce, son of biatch. D-boy, how you dare you? Oh, Connor's. you can cut off one of the Dustin heads of the squid, and another 5 heads will pop up. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Andrews. So I think Jordan's going to be in for middle linebacker. If you put him an outside linebacker, Andrews, the trouble with Jordan Brooks is just I think some of the issues in coverage are going to show up, and he's not a great pass rusher either. He's a great blitzer out of the middle linebacker spot, but just I don't. They're going to have him playing outside linebacker for the interim, so I don't think he'll be amazing at that role. Spiral says, what do you think about Jamal Adams? I think Jamal Adams is everything that we were hoping for and maybe even a little more at this point, Spiral. I think he's a perfect addition for this defense. I think he'll be even better here as we can get a little bit more pass rush. I think he'll show up more. That's where you might start getting an interception or two when things start getting squished down a bit as far as the quarterback's time clock in his head. But I love his addition. And I think he's going to still continue to be a great player for us, Spiral. Thank God they made that trade, because if he wasn't on the football field right now, I mean, who knows what this defense looks like. All right. So we are now almost 3 hours, 50 minutes in. I'm going to go through the last of the comments here. Elefrina Nosi. I hope I pronounced that right. Bring in Cameron Wake and give him a chance. That's a great suggestion, Nosi. Cameron Wake is a guy who's a great pass rusher for years with Miami. He got a little bit long in the tooth, but that is somebody mentioned about a guy that's available maybe out there on the market. Cam would be a guy out there. I don't know what he's got left, man. He didn't give the Titans much as far as a pass rush, but that is a guy. That is a guy. Great suggestion, Nosy. Great suggestion. Jamal Sheard's also a guy. That's a professional pass rusher. He might be something you could take a look at as well. So another good suggestion there as well. We just hit 100 likes. Yes, thank you. Please do hit that like button and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Really do appreciate it. Big time, big time. Danny McCormick. Sorry, Danny. That's your name. Run defense look fine. Pass rush needs a huge upgrade. But trust, boys, John knows it might take a while because he's not going to jump on the first one available. But if we keep winning, he will rate for the one. Well, the hope is with me on that one, Danny, because when I went through and did the exercise of looking who was available, the tough part is it's about availability here. And even over the last 3, 4, 5 years of the trade deadline, there's usually been the 4, 5, 6, pass rushers out there you could go and pluck if you gave up the draft capital that was required. I don't know if there is going to be those guys out there available this year. It's very lean. The pass rushers that have been moved around have already been moved, like your Yannick Ngakoue trades. It's really tough to find much out there that you could go out and grab. You look at a team like, let's say, the Giants that aren't very good this year, and you go, okay, who they got as a pass rusher we can look at? There's not a lot there. You got a lot of those type of teams where there's not a lot there you can go grit that they got available. Maybe they can get creative. Maybe there's somebody here that you can get creative with and look at. But it is so lean as far as options, Danny, and it's such a huge need now. It's not just if it's convenient, go find a guy. It's absolutely, we need like a couple guys here, Dustin says 5-0. Here we come. I love it, Dustin. I hope so, man. Certainly, if you beat the Cowboys, you got the Miami Dolphins after that. You're setting yourself up for certainly 4-0 at the very least. If you can get this win next week. Spiral, your quarterback's washed. Join a buck stream. Jeez. D-Boy says, how far do you see us going into the playoffs this year, the Hawks Nest? I don't see us. I see us getting past the first round no matter what. We're always going to be good for a win. I think we get to the conference championship, but that's probably our top end if the team remains where it is right now. If they can get at least one more legitimate pass rusher, you could sneak your way and force your way, maybe even get into the Super Bowl. But your top end's probably your conference championship right now if we just stay where we're at and we don't make another move. M. Webb, Josina Anderson tweeted tonight that the Seahawks are going to sign AB Week 8. It's going to be a nasty receiver core if you're adding Josh Gordon and Antonio Brown now to it. I've said this before, and hey, let's look at it through this lens, you guys. And you may all hate Antonio Brown, but if you now defensively just are where you're at defensively, but you can go get this guy in Week 8 and bring him on, you're just trying to create the super offense and score 40 points a game. You could do it with those kind of horses out on the outside. You could do it. And Josina does tend to be pretty accurate in her reporting, MWeb. So we'll see, man. Space says we need to do better on defending. We've given up 55 points in 2 games. How can we stop this from happening? You need better pass rush, Space. That's where it begins and ends. I mean, it's not complicated. It's not get varied in your coverages and move guys all over the place and blitz more. You need to generate pass rush. You eventually need your front 4 guys to every once in a while somehow generate some kind of pass rush. You're getting nothing from any of them on any play. It's a 0 right now. So if that improves, those points will go down. I'm getting the other mods kidding. Eleuthera. Okay. I'll probably mispronounce it a couple of times, Eleuthera, but I will try to remember it. It's a very beautiful name. Spiral being cool. Don't get on Spiral. Spiral, it always gets a little bit feisty here after a few hours into the chat. 3 home games without fans. I'm glad we have 2 home games or close. Yeah, hopefully we can get some fans back in the stadium, TJ, because we were really missing it this week, man. I've been really nailing our fans for not being loud enough, but it was to their credit, they've at least been better than that in this game. And it was weird too, because the way they were playing the fan noises, it was throwing you off at times because you're thinking like a flag is going to come in when one didn't. It was just kind of just strange. Video Maker says we'll have a top 3 offense. That's my bold prediction. Second, Russell Wilson, 52 touchdowns. Third, we sweep the Miners. I can see all 3 of those things happening, Video Maker. The 50 touchdowns will be tough, but I can see it happening. Certainly the first and the last are pretty strong, solid predictions, I'd say. Blake Kagan says, Patriots fan here. Welcome, Blake. We welcome all fans in here. I love talking to fellow fans. I give you guys some credit today. You played a real hell of a game. Your coaching staff had those guys ready to play on a Sunday night game. You lost James White right before the game. I mean, that was a huge blow because you knew they were going to want to try to run on the Seattle a little bit more. But fantastic game plan. You guys played great. I expected nothing less from Bill Belichick coach team. And, you guys are going to have a tough year this year, I think, Blake, a little bit. Just because of the nature of things. You had so many guys opt out with the COVID thing and you're trying to re-put building tool, but you got all that cap space going into next year. You're going to be able to roll a lot of this cap space into next year. Plenty there to go out there and reload and rebuild. I don't expect you guys to be down for long at all. Clasher Sports, what's up, Clasher Sports? Welcome in the chat. Chad says Dan Dornick was my favorite running back, and favorite doctor running back. But Dornick was I was watching some 80s film on Dornick. He wasn't a bad player. That guy could play. He definitely could play. Danny McCormick says, I feel we could grab Carlos Dunlap from the Bengals. He's old, but we're looking at the future. We are not looking at the future. Sorry. Yep, he is a little older, but I think he'd be a decent addition. He played damn well against us last year, I think, in that opening game. He's been pretty productive the last few years. Certainly old. Wouldn't cost you a lot, Danny. And he's probably right now on that list of who John Schneider's looking at tonight as he's trying to drink down the whiskeys and figure out what the hell he's going to do. Clasher Sports says we needed Jadeveon Clowney. We absolutely needed Jadeveon Clowney. It sucks that they didn't make the move for him, that they weren't willing to go over the reported offer that I heard, which was 1 year, $9 million. But it is what it is. They weren't willing. No Spiral is a spammer. The GOAT says trade for Bradley Chubb. They are 0-2. Yep, they just might not be willing to give up on Bradley Chubb yet. So that's a lot of, and again, you got to stay in that 4th round range of the GOAT. So it's got to be less than a 4th round in value because you're not giving up that 2nd rounder, I don't think. That would be gutsy to give up your top 3 picks in this next draft. Oh, thanks, El Luthra. I appreciate it. James Glenn says, Danny, we've been beating the drum for Carlos. That's true. James Glenn has been banging the drum for Carlos Dunlap for a while. So if that move works out, James, you get props on that one. You get the Hawks Nest props of the day. All right, so I think we're going to get the last couple questions in here, and then I'm going to wrap it up. I'm trying to keep these things in the post game to 2 hours, so we're a little bit past where I was probably shooting for, but, I love talking with you all. You guys make this so much fun. The time just flies by. Video Maker says our front office is so damn stubborn that it might cause us to collapse the playoffs. It could. You never want to leave one part of your team to be such a detriment that it causes the whole ship to get overturned. But we're taking on water, and we're having to close compartments right now and seal them up, and it could still get through the rest of the cabin. So it's possible that it could happen, Video, and it sucks if that does end up turning out to be the case. If that's the thing that sinks you and you could have seen it coming, it's frustrating, man. It is frustrating. TJ says 2 hours like that. I know, TJ. It's a goal. It's a soft goal. So it's a soft goal. All right. So Chad says activate Shaquem Griffin. That's another place you could do to bring some pass rush. I'd be in favor of it. It'd be a great move. Well, once again, I think we came close to almost setting another record here for people in the stream. It's great to see. I'm glad I'm getting these live streams in here. Just to let anybody know, I'm sure anybody's waiting on the Great Seahawks Moment video. I'm so thankful you guys are being so patient about me getting my next space. Put in your next question here. Put your question in. I'll answer your question here in just a sec, space. I promise. Just to let you guys know, my computer took a complete dump over my trip. I shipped it over from the mainland. It's not booting back up. That's where I do all my video editing. So I know you guys have been really patient with me on the next Great Seahawks Moment video. Please continue to be patient with me on those. They're building my new computer. The good news is I'm getting a just badass new computer. It's really going to kick butt, but unfortunately I got to wait another week and a half or so. So the Great Seahawks Moment video is going to be a little delayed on getting that out to you guys, but got the laptop. We're able to run with the live streams, at least on that. So it's not all completely a loss. The space says, what do you think about Russ and the false starts during the hard count? The false starts can happen on the offensive side of the ball. Those are what they call unforced errors. There's things that will drive coaches crazy because they're things you can control. You can't sometimes control the holding penalties. You can't sometimes control the pass interference. Thing you can control when you're on the offensive side of the ball and you know the snap count, you know he's going on 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Wait. But the fact that they went was disconcerting. They need to allow Russell to be able to use that hard count, especially when he's in stadiums when we go on the road where there aren't going to be crowds and they can hear him. So it's something Aaron Rodgers is really taking advantage of right now with the empty stadiums. I appreciate everybody here for hopping on in the chat. Then look, my last questions on there. Look like I got them all through as I promised. I try to catch them all. Thank you for hanging on so late, Chad, and thank you for that new subscriber on that. Dustin, you're feisty as ever, and I love you for it, man. I'll give you a go, Sean Alexander, just for you. Appreciate you guys as ever. We will be back next Saturday. I do a live stream every other Saturday show, and we will be doing throughout this year post-game live stream stuff. I'm going to get DMAC here once I get my new computer back so we can do dual streams on the post-game. I always think it's a little bit better. I got him here helping me come along. We can just kind of work off of each other. Yeah, TJ, fire away. One last question. Go ahead, buddy. Fire away. Can you watch the final play at least 10 times? I will be watching the final play probably 15 times just for seeing LJ Collier do something, man. I love it. I love it. Love it. Well, you guys all have a very good night. I salute all of you. Thank you for the donations. All down the line, you guys are always good with that. Barry and Randall McDaniel on there. Good stuff. Thank you for the subscriptions. Thank you for smashing on that like button. Hit that if you haven't hit that one more time. Please subscribe if you're watching this and recording. It doesn't cost you anything. It's completely free and it helps this channel continue to grow as we march towards 5,000 subscribers. I appreciate all of you guys. I love you guys. We got to win. We're 2-0 on the road to maybe, hopefully, our Super Bowl winning season. Don't you guys forget. Don't you ever forget. Go Hawks.